Warrior Lore. Chapter 42-21. Back then, when Zichun saw MCMAU's fiend celestial beast, his expression became strange. That was because it was clearly a standing pig, or rather, a battle pig. It looked very funny, but everyone was very shocked. At that time, Zichun looked down on that pig, but its aura was very similar to Spectre's. Of course, Spectre's aura was much purer than its. It was not easy for Zichun to obtain the spirit. Part of it was the mysterious ghost spirit holy talisman, while the other part was formed from the ghost spirit cultivation method. After various fortuitous encounters, the two finally merged to form the spirit. Zichun had witnessed the strength of Spectre. Back then, he was lost in that world because of Spectre's soul-devouring technique, but Spectre was not lost. It reminded him several times to wake him up. This time, MCMAU came here to find opportunities with the help of that pig. Zichun had a Spectre with a purer aura, so naturally, he wanted to give it a try. Su the Hall spirit glanced at Zichun and said, "Just this once." Zichun grinned, and his figure disappeared into thin air. The demons who entered this place would never be able to leave, and they would never be able to survive. After appearing, Zichun walked forward. The door of the main hall was already closed. He walked to the door, exerted force with both hands, and pushed forward. The door of the main hall opened slowly, and Zichun walked in. In Zichun's field of vision, there were some corpses lying haphazardly. Those corpses were incomplete, probably the work of that pig beside MCMAU. The air was filled with a considerable amount of pressure. Every step forward seemed to be carrying a heavy load. If what happened before was an opportunity, then this was a test. MCMAU could kill its way in, proving that it had some tricks up its sleeve. Of course, it was only a few tricks. The main hall in front was closed. Zichun walked to the door. He pushed the door again. A torrent seemed to appear in front of him, and countless lights appeared in Zichun's field of vision. A powerful black claw appeared in the light, going straight for Zichun's neck. Zichun raised his palm, and magic bloomed in his palm. With a loud bang, Zichun took a few steps back. The light in front of him disappeared. Zichun saw the pig-like fiend celestial beast. There was a hint of surprise in its blood-red eyes. Zichun looked ahead through the open palace doors. He saw MCMAU standing there, his entire body bathed in black light, as if he was receiving some kind of inheritance. Zichun's figure disappeared. In the next moment, he arrived in front of the fiend celestial beast. With a loud bang, the fiend celestial beast was sent flying. Its body smashed into Emo Wudu's body, interrupting the other party's opportunity. Of course, when he saw Z, he was in the end. When he saw Zichun, he was in the end, in the end. He came here. He was alone. He came here to obtain the opportunity here alone. To prevent that, who would have thought that the other party would arrive so quickly? You're courting death. The Fiend Celestial's inheritance was interrupted. MCMAU was enraged. With a roar, he charged towards Zichun. Above his clenched fist, a demonic shadow appeared. A powerful aura enveloped the surroundings. Zichun's expression did not change when he saw this punch. He clenched his fist and attacked. His punch was not as violent as MCMAU's. However, when he punched, the surrounding space seemed to have changed. MCMAU's expression changed. This was caused by the power being condensed to a limit. He did not expect the other party, who was only an 8-star, to have such brilliant control of power. Zichun's punch looked steady and not fast. However, the oppressive aura made it impossible for MCMAU to change his move. The two fists met, and energy surged out. A magic ripple visible to the naked eye wreaked havoc in the hall. Zichun's body swayed slightly as he stood on the spot while Emo Wudu took a few steps back. "Is this your power? That's all there is to it." Zichun smiled faintly. His tone was calm, but the sarcasm was obvious. That punch was not weak, but in the Saint Spirit realm, it was far from the top of the group of people. "Who exactly are you?" MCMAU looked at Zichun in shock. An 8-star could force him to retreat. This was the first time in his life. "After being tricked by you, I'm angry and decided to fight back and take revenge," Zichun said with a smile. "You're courting death." MCMAU's single eye flashed coldly. He began to form a seal in his hand. A huge demonic spear loomed. The oppressive aura around them became stronger. The floor of the hall seemed to have begun to tremble slightly. Zichun looked at MCMAU quietly. He did not deliberately accumulate power. Go to hell. The long spear trembled and charged towards Zichun like a bolt of black lightning. The distance between the two parties was not far. At this moment, MCMAU attacked with all his might. This attack arrived in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the fiend celestial beast that quietly appeared behind Zichun also launched an attack at Zichun. Looks like you've used this move quite often. You've connected it well. Zichun smiled faintly. He did not seem to use any force, but two rays of light appeared on their own. One of them turned into an ancient shield and appeared behind Zichun on its own, blocking the fiend celestial beast's attack. A long spear appeared in front of Zichun. He used the spear as a staff and immediately smashed it down. With a boom, the long spear that was completely condensed from demonic power exploded. After the ancient shield blasted away the fiend celestial beast, it arrived in front of Zichun. Zichun held a spear and a shield in one hand. He looked at MCMAU with a slightly provocative gaze. What other tricks do you have? Feel free to use them. MCMAU's expression began to change. What, do you have a trump card that you can't bear to use? Zichun's figure disappeared into thin air. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the pig-like fiend celestial beast. Two flashes of light could be seen. During this time, the sound of power colliding could be heard. After about 100 collisions, the fiend celestial beast was sent flying, and its body crashed heavily onto the ground. The fiend celestial beast fell to the ground and coughed up blood. It was no match for Zichun at all. MCMAU, whose expression had changed, no longer hesitated. With a wave of his hand, a pagoda appeared in front of him. The pagoda was 7 stories tall, and its surface was flowing with demonic light. Suppress. MCMAU roared angrily. The pagoda flew high into the sky and expanded wildly. The rules in the surroundings seemed to be drawn in. Zichun felt his body being restrained. Just as he was slightly surprised, the pagoda descended from the sky and enveloped Zichun. At this moment, at the lowest level of the pagoda, a human-shaped pattern appeared. It was Zichun's appearance, like a carving. Damn it, I actually have to waste a demon suppression pagoda to kill you. What a loss. Chapter 42:22. Zichun's body was already enveloped by the pagoda. The black pagoda began to shrink, spinning in the air until it was the size of an ordinary pagoda. Emo Wudu waved his hand, and the pagoda landed in his hand. Looking at the seal on the first layer that belonged to Zichun, a look of pain flashed across his eyes. D****. This was prepared for dealing with a half-step holy venerable. I didn't expect to use it on an idiot like you first. Emo Wudu said unhappily, this is a huge loss. This pagoda was one of his trump cards, reserved for great use. Unexpectedly, at this moment, cracks suddenly appeared on the pagoda where Zichun had engraved the seal. This made Emo Wudu's expression change abruptly. Even against a half-step holy venerate, Xiao Chen's pagoda could hold its ground. How could it not trap a mere 8-star holy spirit? With a loud boom, the pagoda's layer that sealed Zichun shattered, and the powerful force directly pushed Emo Wudu back. The pagoda began to spin in the air, and a ray of light flew out from the shattered layer. It was Zichun. He glanced at the pagoda and said, "Your power is not bad, but if you want to trap me, you're still a little lacking." Emo Wudu's hand seals appeared again, and the shattered layer of the pagoda fell off on its own. The original 7-story pagoda turned into a 6-story pagoda. The 6-story pagoda's surface glowed, and it looked like a complete hole. There was no sign of damage at all. Zichun was rather surprised by this. Let's see how many times you can break it. Emo Wudu's single eye flashed coldly, and he once again controlled the pagoda to fall towards Zichun. As expected, Zichun was trapped inside. This time, Emo Wudu did not dare to be careless. He immediately used his soul power to start sealing the pagoda layer by layer. But it was useless. After just 3 breaths, the pagoda exploded. It was still the layer that trapped Zichun that was forcibly broken through. Let's try again. Zichun, who had successfully escaped, looked at Mo Wudu and said. Mo Wudu gritted his teeth and continued to control the pagoda. The 6-story pagoda turned into a 5-story pagoda and then trapped Zichun inside. Boom! Zichun forcibly broke open the pagoda. At that moment, the pagoda had 4 floors. Countless black lights were flowing on its surface. Even though the number of floors was very low, for some reason, it gave Zichun a powerful feeling. Do you dare to try again? MCMAU asked alone. Then let's do it again, Zichun said in a low voice. MCMAU alone controlled the 4-story pagoda to descend. Seeing that Zichun was about to be enveloped by the pagoda, the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up into a smile as if his scheme had succeeded. This pagoda was no ordinary pagoda. Once it reached the 4th level, it would no longer seal the power of one level, but the power of all 4 levels at the same time. Under such circumstances, they could safely trap a half-step holy venerate. Although it was somewhat wasteful to deal with Zichun, this seemed to be the only way. When the 4-story pagoda fell, Zichun's figure disappeared. MCMAU laughed alone. Just then, a mocking voice rang out from behind him. Aren't you smiling a little too early? Demonic light flowed on MCMAU's body. He immediately turned around. A fist whistled through the air and landed on his opponent's face. It directly sent MCMAU flying. The 4-story pagoda, which had missed its target, continued to rise into the air and descend towards Zichun. Do you really think I'm stupid? Zichun laughed disdainfully. His figure disappeared again, avoiding the pagoda's seal. However, the 4-story pagoda followed him like a shadow. It seemed that it would not disappear until it caught Zichun. Zichun appeared in several places, and the pagoda followed. Since you want to follow me so much, I'll accept you. Zichun's figure disappeared again. However, at the place where he disappeared, a ripple passage appeared. The 4-story pagoda crashed into it. When it encountered the ripple, it sensed that something was wrong and wanted to escape. With Palace Spirit Su around, Zichun did not even look at the pagoda. Unless the pagoda was a venerable level true treasure personally refined by a holy venerable, it would not be able to escape the seal of the Zichun Palace. MCMAU lost his sense of the pagoda. His heart trembled. This guy named Zichun had given him too many surprises today. He glanced at the Fiend Celestial Beast. The Fiend Celestial Beast charged towards Zichun again. The spear was like a stick, drawing a half-arc in the sky. With a bang, the Fiend Celestial Beast flew backward. It was no match for him at all. MCMAU said, "Forget it. I'll admit that you have great power. It's time for us to show our strength." The Fiend Celestial Beast stood up and looked at Zichun with resentment. MCMAU continued, "At first, I thought that I had many trump cards on me. This time, I should be able to go far. Along the way, I deliberately did not use too much power. I didn't expect to meet you. If that's the case, then I'll treat you as my mortal enemy." The Fiend Celestial Beast turned into a ray of light and flew toward MCMAU, disappearing into his long robe. Then, an indescribably strong aura erupted from MCMAU's body. Is this the fusion technique? Zichun's expression became serious. At this moment, MCMAU gave him a strong sense of threat. This was something that had never happened before. After all, after advancing to 8-star, Zichun's combat strength was already unrivaled among holy spirits. Go to hell. MCMAU smashed down with a fist, the force of his fist rolling toward him. In front of Zichun, a light shield bloomed, blocking in front of him. Just a mere demonic weapon. Watch how I break it. With a loud bang, Zichun's figure retreated. The light on the light shield gradually faded, but it was still intact. This weapon had an extraordinary origin. It was not something that a mere 9-star holy spirit could break. Then let's do it again. MCMAU threw 3 consecutive punches. Zichun retreated continuously, but the light shield was still intact. The quality is not bad. I'll take it. MCMAU laughed. Zichun said sarcastically, "You?" His figure flashed, his feet moving strangely, quickly approaching MCMAU. The spear and shield in his hands disappeared at the same time, and he only used his fists. "You have a death wish." MCMAU's attack landed, but Zichun dodged it instantly, punching toward the opponent's side. Combat arts. After one punch, Zichen's figure flashed again, followed by a second punch and a third punch. After 10 punches in a row, MCMAU's figure began to stagger, unable to maintain his center of gravity. Zichun was still punching, neither fast nor slow. Soon, 15 punches had been thrown. His punches came one after another, and the power in them kept pouring in. During this time, there would always be a portion of energy that would be quietly hidden. This was the essence of combat arts. After 30 punches, MCMAU's attacks became fewer and fewer. After 50 punches, almost all of them were in a defensive state. After 80 punches, MCMAU could no longer control his own body. After that, each of Zichen's punches was full force, hitting his opponent until he continuously changed directions. After the 90th punch, MCMAU's body smashed into the ground. Zichun, whose face was slightly pale, said, "Die." A light erupted from MCMAU's body, and his body was split into two. Chapter 42-23. Wudu stood up awkwardly. The fiend celestial beast beside him was dispirited, no longer as arrogant as before. Zichun looked at the man and beast, asking, "How do you feel?" Wudu's eyes were full of resentment. This unknown guy had extraordinarily strong combat power, but in the entire Saint Spirit realm, he had never heard of such a person. Who was he? Where did he come from? This was the question that Wudu wanted to know the most, but there was no point in asking now, because one of them had to die, and it had to be Zichun. Wudu looked at Zichun and said coldly, "I admit that you're the biggest enemy I've ever met. So today, you must die." Zichun said lightly, "Because you're seriously injured now?" Nkwuda pointed at the top of his head and said, "Earlier, even though you interrupted my opportunity, I still have some connection with this place and know what the inheritance here is. Now, even if I risk the backlash of the inheritance, I still have to kill you, right? Because right now, nothing is more important than one's own life." Zichun wanted to say that there was nothing wrong with the other party's logic, but it was useless in front of him. Wudu looked at the fiend celestial beast again, saying, "Old friend, I'll have to trouble you. We have to live, don't we?" The fiend celestial beast coughed up 3 mouthfuls of blood. These 3 mouthfuls were all essence blood. After spitting it out, its aura became even more dispirited, as if even its realm had dropped. The essence blood spread in the sky, turning into a bloody mist that flew into the sky. The bloody mist turned into an eye in the sky, a bloody eye. At the same time, the fiend celestial beast merged with Wudu again. During this time, Wudu kept coughing up blood. It could be seen that after merging again, the other party's condition became very bad. His face was pale and his spirit was dispirited, but his eyes were still full of resentment when he looked at Zichun. Go to hell. In the sky, the bloody eye began to shine. At the same time, there was a power that floated down from the palace. That power was mysterious and powerful. It was the true power of the demon god. Under the infusion of the demon god's power, the bloody eye became the eye of the demon god. The blood-red eye glowed as it looked at Zichun. Zichun, who was already on guard, felt a strange power enter his eyes and then his sea of consciousness. He stood there motionlessly as the light in his eyes slowly faded away. "What are you doing?" Zichun looked at the young boy in front of him, a look of panic in his eyes. "Zichun, we're brothers," the young man said with a laugh, then strode forward. He opened his arms and wanted to hug Zichun. Zichun didn't know why, but when he saw his good brother in front of him, he actually felt a sense of resistance. He really wanted to retreat and get rid of the other party, but his body wasn't under his control. The young man approached him and gave him a firm hug. In this cold and windy world, he could clearly feel the warmth of the hug. At this moment, the resistance in his heart seemed to lessen. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. It was as if a sharp blade had pierced through his heart. The good brother in front of him had a sinister smile on his face, like an evil spirit that had crawled out of the abyss. "Brother, don't blame me. For the sake of survival, I can only sacrifice you." The young man gently pushed Zichun. Zichun's body slowly retreated. Before he fell into the cliff, he called out the young man's name. Zhao Can, the young man's smile was brilliant, like a flower, but also like a delicate flower of death. Zichun fell into the snow and fainted. Not long after, he woke up. He glanced at his already healed wound. I'm Zichun. I'm the undying Zichun. He stood up, patted the snow off his body, and walked out of the valley. He returned to his sect and began to work hard on his cultivation. During this time, he felt as if he had forgotten something. Then, on his way out, he found a stalk of snow ginseng. The snow ginseng was guarded by wild beasts. He couldn't fight them alone, so he called his good brother over. The two of them went in search of opportunities, looking forward to entering the inner sect together. The two of them stood on top of a mountain. When they saw the undamaged snow ginseng in the distance, they embraced. In the end, it became an embrace of death. Zichun looked at the dagger in his chest, then slowly retreated. Before he fell into the cliff, he called out Zhao Can's name. Not long after he fell into the cliff, Zichun woke up again. I'm Zichun. I'm the undying, he muttered. Even though he himself didn't know what was going on, he still didn't know. After returning to the sect, he began to work hard on his cultivation. Unfortunately, his talent wasn't high, and his progress was slow. He could only rely on external objects. And so, he found a stalk of snow ginseng. Next to it was a wild beast. He decided to ask his good brother for help, and the two of them entered the inner sect together. In this great hall, everything fell silent. Zichun's eyes were lifeless. He stood there motionless. Because MCMAU had to control the eye with the demon god's power above his head, he had to pay a heavy price. Both of them didn't move. Zichun couldn't move, and MCMAU couldn't do anything. After activating this move, the price to pay was beyond imagination. Fortunately, the effect was not bad. Every time the eye above his head flashed, it would take away Zichun's life force. At this moment, Zichun was obviously in some kind of illusory state, unable to extricate himself. If there were no other accidents, Zichun's life force would be obliterated and disappear just like that. This was the power and horror of the demon god's eye. It could silently and painlessly cause a person to die. Since his body couldn't move, MCMAU couldn't quickly move forward to give Zichun the final fatal blow. However, he was still in a good mood. This was because looking at the current situation, Zichun was only a hair's breadth away from death. He would die just like that. Zichun's life force was slipping away, but he couldn't feel it. He could only keep repeating that strange scene. His consciousness was trapped in it, and he couldn't wake up for a long time. This was the biggest crisis Zichun had encountered since he came here. If no accident happened, Zichun would really die here. However, that accident happened. After countless revivals, Zichun's consciousness was still not clear. When his soul sensed the danger, it automatically put up a defense. His soul power also began to circulate wildly, like a violent vortex erupting from his consciousness. The life force that was slipping away was rapidly being devoured. At the same time, the power that belonged to the surroundings was also being devoured by Zichun's soul power. This included the remaining demon god's power in this great hall. As a wisp of the demon god's power entered his body, this power was not directly refined by Zichun. Instead, it entered Zichun's eyes. Chapter 42-24. A red light flashed in Zichun's eyes. His consciousness was separated from the circular environment. Looking at the eye that was still floating in front of him and recalling the previous scene, Zichun felt a lingering fear. He had almost died in this place. However, it was also a coincidence that allowed him to understand the true meaning of the demon eye. The reason why he could wake up now was also because of the demon eye. As expected, it was not an easy task to comprehend the demon eye. The prerequisite for success was the help and guidance of a demon god's power. In other words, it was to open the door. Only when this power opened the door could one walk in. After successfully comprehending the demon eye on top of MCMAU's head was no longer a threat to Zichun. This was like an ownerless house. MCMAU was the first to arrive and was still a guest in the house. Since the owner was not around, they could use the things here at will. The eye that was activated earlier was considered a borrowing. On the other hand, Zichun had comprehended the demon god's eye midway. That was a cultivation method that belonged to the demon god. It was equivalent to him becoming the owner of this house. Therefore, if MCMAU wanted to casually use his house's belongings, he would need the owner's permission. Zichen blinked his eyes and said, "Disperse." The demon eye on top of MCMAU's head dispersed out of thin air. The demon god's power that belonged to it flew towards Zichen and entered his eyes. MCMAU's body, which was in a combined state, was divided into two again. The demon god beast looked at Zichen's eyes, its eyes full of fear. Although MCMAU did not sense anything strange, he sensed a strong sense of danger from Zichen. How is this possible? He was shocked and looked at Zichen in disbelief. Zichen did not pay attention to MCMAU. Instead, he looked around. Finally, his gaze fell on the sky. With the demon god's eye, Zichen already knew what was used in this hall. There was the power left behind by the demon god. The inheritance of this power was the demon god's eye. What a coincidence! Zichen let out a sigh. If it wasn't the demon god's eye but some other power, then he would really be in danger this time. Zichen's gaze rested on Wudu again. He said, "Don't feel like you've lost unjustly. In fact, you haven't lost unjustly at all. You may be able to beat others, but you definitely can't beat me, Zichen." Zichen smiled and a ray of light appeared beside Zichen. It was Spectre, who had been hiding. Ghost stood on Zichen's shoulder and stared at the fiend celestial beast. The fiend celestial beast, which was already terrified, instinctively let out a low roar. It was not a roar of intimidation, but of fear. That was an instinctive fear, as if a superior had descended, innately suppressing his aura. Wudu's impact was much stronger than the fiend celestial beast's because the one standing in front was clearly the legendary fiend celestial beast. That was a real fiend celestial beast, an invincible battle pet belonging to the fiend celestial. Who was Zichen? An 8-star with such combat strength and skills. Was he the reincarnation of the fiend celestial? Zichen snapped his fingers lightly and Spectre opened its mouth and inhaled. The fiend celestial beast, standing beside the demonic martial celestial beast, fell limply to the ground. Its pure soul power was devoured by the spirit. Seeing this, Zichen was even more certain that his Spectre was also a fiend celestial beast. Moreover, it was a fiend celestial beast of a higher grade. Fiend celestial beast, this is a fiend celestial beast. Wudu's subsequent exclamation also confirmed this point. At the same time, he also realized that his loss was not unjustly. It was just that his luck was too bad to have met Zichen. Zichen flew toward the sky. There was the inheritance left behind by the fiend celestial. Moreover, from the looks of it, he could still obtain it. Spectre inhaled again. This time, a strange soul energy landed on Wudu's body. Wudu, who was already injured, suffered a backlash from forcibly borrowing the demon god's power. He only resisted for a moment before collapsing. Just as his life faded away, the long robe on his body also became dull. The embroidery of the fiend celestial beast on it also disappeared. Zichen's body was shrouded in black light. This black light was the inheritance that Wudu had previously obtained. However, Zichen had now comprehended the demon god's eye by chance, so this power would directly strengthen Zichen's demon god's eye. All the power gathered in Zichen's eyes and became the power of the demon god's eye. This was the pure demon god's power. Its grade was far superior to the royal power that Wudu had previously used. This was the real opportunity. After the Spectre devoured Wudu and the fiend celestial beast, it stayed at the side to protect Zichen. After a while, all the power was devoured by Zichen. Although there was no change in his realm, Zichen had gained another remarkable ability. That was the demon god's eye. After using this technique, he was like a real devil. After obtaining the power of the inheritance, just as Zichen was about to leave, he unexpectedly discovered that there seemed to be something else in the sky. However, as he looked carefully, he did not really see it. Even when he used his soul energy to sense it carefully, he did not discover anything. This made him very surprised. Could it all be an illusion? At this moment, Zichen thought of a possibility and directly used the demon god's eye that he had just mastered. As he closed and opened his eyes, light appeared from the bottom of his eyes. Zichen's vision became different. The specter in the distance looked in this direction with vigilance. At this moment, Zichen's aura underwent an obvious change. Although there was no scene of rolling demonic qi, his temperament had become extremely cold. Zichen saw a pair of eyes left in the sky. It seemed to be hidden in a hidden corner where time and space overlapped. Unless he used the demon god's eye, it would be impossible to see it. If he could not see it, he naturally could not get it. Zichen was very glad that he had discovered the abnormality in advance. Just as he saw that pair of eyes, the pair of eyes that seemed to have been thrown in the corner for countless years lit up. Their eyes met. Countless rays of light bloomed. Vaguely, there seemed to be a summoning force, as if someone was waving at the pair of eyes that lit up. The pair of eyes that had been sealed for many years left the corner, traveled through time and space, and arrived in front of Zichen. In the next moment, it sensed the aura of the same origin, so it immediately flew towards Zichen and entered his eyes. It was as if there were two red fireballs that entered Zichen's eyes. Zichen subconsciously closed his eyes, and two streaks of blood flowed down from the corners of his eyes. Chapter 42:25. The cold voice Zichen heard came from the devil, but it was just a voice left behind many years ago, so he couldn't tell Zichen's real identity. Killing the spirit was his first task, which showed how much the devil hated the spirit. Even under such circumstances, he didn't forget to remind the people who came after him. Zichen listened quietly and didn't make any response. At this moment, the eyes were being assimilated by Zichen. This was the devil's eye left behind by the devil. Of course, Zichen wasn't sure if this was the same pair of eyes the devil used to fight. Or it could be said that this was a special existence similar to a soul weapon. Tears of blood flowed from the corners of the eyes, and there was a powerful force constantly attacking Zichen's mind, with a strong vibration of the soul. The aura around him became unstable. This situation lasted for a full quarter of an hour before it gradually calmed down. Zichen took a deep breath and wiped away the traces of blood and tears on his face. This time, he had gained a lot. Before leaving, Zichen walked around the hall again to see if he could find anything else. He even used the devil's eye again, but he found nothing. Walking out of the hall, a passage appeared in front of him. Zichen walked in. Zichen appeared in the crowd. There were many people here, and they all stopped. Occasionally, there were flashes of brilliance around, and demons appeared one after another. Zichen spread out his soul power and saw the abnormality in front of him. There were countless demons, but they all stood there motionless like zombies. Everyone was outside, and so far, no one had come forward. The people around were whispering. Some people were using rumors to discuss something. Zichen noticed Lu Zhan and asked, "What's the matter?" Lu Zhan had seen Zichen a long time ago, but she remembered Zichen's words, so she didn't dare to contact him. It is said that the devil's inheritance land is right in front of us, but it has been blocked by these creatures. Unlike before, there is no power to be gained from killing them this time. Plus, they are surprisingly strong. Everyone is waiting, and no one is gone yet. What about half-step holy venerables? Zichen asked. Not yet. At this moment, Lu Zhan had a question in his heart. What about MCMAU? The other party was quite famous and had a fiend celestial beast by his side. However, why did he disappear now? He wanted to ask, but he didn't dare. Lu Zhan recalled something and said, "There is a no-fly zone here. We can't fly over from above. If we want to go over, we can only kill our way out. Our Devil Snake Guard has already started to form an alliance. Are you coming?" Zichen did not agree immediately. He decided to wait and see. At this moment, a group of black-robed men moved. There were 12 of them, and they walked forward. A beam of light descended from the sky and landed in front of the 12 people. An uproar erupted in the surroundings because a half-step holy venerable appeared. This half-step holy venerate who appeared punched forward. A resplendent fist light flew forward. Everywhere the fist light passed, demon race creatures died. In the blink of an eye, a straight and empty path appeared. The leading half-step holy venerable led the 12 black-robed men forward. They were the first to advance. The surroundings were in an uproar. Zichen's expression changed. Earlier, He clearly felt the demonic god's energy. Like Xiao Chun, that half-step holy venerable had obtained a portion of the demonic god's inheritance. Based on the other party's attack, he should have obtained the demonic god's right arm. Only those who obtained the demonic god's inheritance could sense such an aura. Hence, Zichun decided to wait. At the same time, he wanted to see who obtained the demonic god's energy. After a while, another half-step holy venerable appeared. This time, he used the energy of his left arm. Unsurprisingly, 2 more people obtained the energy of the demonic god's leg. One of them was charging forward like a machine that opened up a path. All the demons that came into contact with him would be sent flying by the powerful shockwave. That should be the energy of the demonic god's physical body. Those powerful half-step holy venerables all entered. The others were also eager to give it a try, and began to form groups to advance. Zichun waited for a while longer. Then, Luzhen sent out a second invitation. The demonic snake guards prepared to charge in. Zichun rejected the invitation. He believed that no one else would come at this time, so he decided to enter alone. Zichun walked forward alone. Moreover, he didn't conceal his cultivation level and aura at all. Guessing his intentions, many people looked at him strangely. In this place, even a half-step holy venerate would have to lead a team forward. Even when countless 9-star holy spirits formed teams, they would still be on tenterhooks. What more a mere 8-star holy venerable? Was he sending himself to his death? When Zichun moved, the others did not move. They all looked at Zichun, or rather, they were waiting for him to die before the others left. Luzhen also noticed this scene. However, she did not say anything. It was not that she believed that Zichun could pass, but that if she sent a voice projection, others might hear her and discover her relationship with him. Before the crowd's gazes, Zichun arrived at the edge. He was only 30 meters away from the demon race creatures in front. After those half-step holy spirits killed the demon race creatures and walked over, new demon race creatures would appear in that empty space. Now, it looked like there were still many of them. Zichun closed his eyes, and his breathing calmed. His soul energy surged in his sea of consciousness and gathered in his eyes. Zichun opened his eyes and looked ahead. No energy appeared, but the demon race creatures standing there disappeared one after another. In the blink of an eye, a huge vacuum appeared. Cries of alarm rang out in the surroundings. The expressions of all the people waiting to see Zichun die changed. What kind of magic was this to kill so many with just a glance? Zichun walked into the vacuum. The demon race creatures that appeared here seemed to be testing everyone's strength. After he walked through the vacuum, the demon race creatures that disappeared earlier appeared again. They did not attack Zichun. Instead, they stayed where they were, quietly waiting for the second wave of enemies to arrive. Luzhen looked at Zichun's disappearing figure with a touch of expectation in her eyes. Perhaps this plan could really succeed. After smoothly passing through the test, Zichun saw a messy battlefield. The ground had collapsed, and there were huge cracks and ravines everywhere. In his field of vision, not even a blade of grass grew. This was a new battlefield. Or rather, it was the previous battlefield, but it was moved here by someone with great magic power. In the center of the messy battlefield, there was a mountain peak. This mountain peak towered into the clouds, and it had a heavy aura. Apart from the mountain peak, everything else was in ruins. Those who came here before all went to the mountain peak. The sky restriction was still in place, so they had to climb to the top of the mountain. Chapter 42:26. The stone steps were made of special limestone. Each piece was very flat and of the same size. They were exquisitely crafted. As Zichun walked up the stone steps, he did not encounter any danger or test. This was very different from what he expected. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. Walking all the way here was already the biggest test. If not for the demonic god eye, it would have been very difficult for Zichun to make it through the countless demonic race creatures. As Zichun walked up the stone steps and looked down at the battlefield below, he seemed to see the great battle from back then. Someone split the ground with a saber strike. Someone split the sky with a sword strike. Someone shattered mountains, and someone exterminated life. This should be the ultimate battlefield, and the demon god might have fallen here. The group smoothly reached the summit. Then, Everyone stopped. There was a magnificent palace in front of them with the words, Demonic God, written on it. Clearly, this was the Demonic God Palace. Everyone stopped in their tracks, not because of the majestic palace, but because of the skeleton in front of them. As the corpse stood there, it seemed to form a small world of its own. It gave off an intense sense of danger. Not far away, 3 people lay on the ground. They should have tried to force their way in earlier, but got killed by the corpse. Zichun looked at the corpse in front. The summoning came from the other party. Furthermore, Zichun felt a familiar aura from the corpse. If Zichun guessed right, this corpse should be the head of all the holy venerates of the spirit race, the lord that these people referred to. At this moment, there were many half-step holy venerates here. This made Zichun hesitate. He did not know whether he should go forward or not. After all, Shao Chun was only an 8-star martial emperor. He did not want to attract too much attention. Just as Zichun hesitated, he saw a person walk forward. Zichun remembered this person. This was the person with the demonic god left arm. When Shao Chun was only 30 meters away from the corpse, he suddenly punched. The demonic god's energy was activated. A dazzling fist light flew straight at the corpse in front of him. The other party's earlier attack opened up a vacuum among the demonic race creatures. Chi. The corpse started to light up. A sharp sword chi shot out and instantly extinguished the fist light. At the same time, the sword chi did not scatter and shot towards that half-step holy venerate. The man's face fell, and he immediately retreated. Several defensive barriers appeared in front of him. However, it was useless. When these defenses met with the sword chi, they were instantly shattered. Among them, there was even a high-quality defensive soul weapon. The sword chi continued to press forward. The half-step holy venerate did not even have time to feel heartache. He could only retreat immediately. 2 men in black flew over and used their bodies to block the sword chi. With 2 soft sounds, the 2 men's bodies were penetrated and they fell into a pool of blood. After exhausting the 9-star holy spirits and sacrificing their lives, the sword chi finally weakened. When it approached the half-step holy venerate, the half-step holy venerate shattered it with a palm strike. The scene shocked the crowd. Zichun stood there without moving. At that moment, there was only shock in his eyes. That was because the sword aura from before possessed the attribute of lightning. The reason why he found it familiar was because that person was a holy exalted from the Lightning Clan, someone from the same clan as him. He did not expect that the one who led the group of Saint Venerables into the demon realm back then was actually the Thunder Clan's Saint Venerables. Furthermore, even after countless years, the remnant energy in this skeleton was still very strong. This showed how strong it was back then. If one wanted to enter the demonic Tao Palace, one had to get past this skeleton. That earlier sword strike even forced back a half-step holy venerate. Naturally, the others did not dare to go forward. However, this was only temporary. The temptation of the demonic god's inheritance was too great. The energy in this skeleton would eventually run out. If it really came to that, it would be almost impossible for Zichun to bring anything back. The half-step holy venerates who obtained the inheritance already started communicating with each other, intending to work together. Zichun no longer hesitated, directly walking forward. The moment he moved, he naturally became the center of attention. When the crowd sensed Shao Chen's cultivation, they were stunned. Why is an 8-star holy venerate going forward? Before he even got close to the skeleton, Zichun began to form a seal. His body was surrounded by demonic power. Is he seeking death? A half-step holy venerate frowned. If he activated the demonic energy now, it would only be seen as a provocation, completely enraging that skeleton. It would be fine if the skeleton died. However, it might even affect their progress. Just as the half-step holy venerate was about to stop the other party, the light of Zichun's energy started to change. Sometimes it was demonic energy, and sometimes it changed attributes. Oh, that half-step holy venerate felt somewhat surprised. It looks like this is some kind of magical technique that can change the attribute of energy. He intends to use this move to trick the skeleton. Another half-step holy venerate said. This was a minor magical technique that no one learned. The spiritual race, who possessed spiritual energy, had too low of a status in this world. However, this minor magical technique might be useful in the current situation. At this moment, Zichen's energy kept changing. Furthermore, the frequency of it kept increasing, occasionally switching between two types of energy. Xiao Qian was getting closer to the skeleton. To the crowd, this was because Zichen had not grasped this magical technique that changed the nature of energy. Once he got close to the skeleton and switched back to the original demonic energy, only death awaited him. All the demons held their breaths, nervously waiting for the next development of the situation. They had personally witnessed how powerful the skeleton was. If this 8-star Holy Spirit could really destroy it, they would be very happy to see it. Under everyone's nervous gazes, Zichen walked in front of the skeleton. The energy around his body flashed, changing from spiritual energy to demonic energy. Some people began to cry out in alarm. Perhaps they were about to die. But at this moment, the energy around Zichen's body changed again, from demonic energy to spiritual energy. At this moment, Zichen, who was forming hand seals, immediately pressed his hand against the skeleton. Wong. In an instant, the skeleton began to tremble. Countless rays of light bloomed, dazzling and dazzling. The surrounding demons all closed their eyes. That spiritual energy light made them feel very uncomfortable. Zichen was not affected. He could see ahead. A person appeared in front of him. It was a middle-aged man. He stood in front of Zichen and stared at Zichen in a daze. In truth, he had been looking at Zichen the entire time. It was just that Zichen had not noticed. Zichen, the middle-aged man called out in a low voice. You know me? Zichen asked, puzzled. It really is you. It really is you. The middle-aged man sighed and said, I knew you weren't dead. You are Zichen. You can't die. Zichen explained, Senior, my name is indeed Zichen. However, I am not the Zichen you know. This time, I came because I felt Senior's call. Chapter 42:27. Zichen looked at the middle-aged man, not knowing what to say. The middle-aged man looked at Zichen and sighed, then smiled. Although I don't know what happened back then, I'm still very happy to see you here again. It seems that no matter what era you are in, no matter what you become, your unwillingness to be left out has never changed. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the demon realm. How did a spirit like you end up here? And how did you get along so well with the demon race? Although he was no longer an important person, he could still see Zichen's true identity. Zichen originally had questions to ask him, but he didn't expect him to ask first. Zichen truthfully told him what had happened and what he had seen along the way. The middle-aged man said, the spirit race's current situation has a lot to do with us. Back then, when we killed our way into this place, everything went smoothly, and the demon race was forced to flee. Who would have thought that in the final battle, a powerful demon race expert would suddenly appear, leading a large group of saint sovereigns to attack us unprepared? That demon race expert called himself the demon god. In his words, he had already set up a big game of chess and was just waiting for us chess pieces to come in. As the middle-aged man spoke, the light on his body began to fade. He shook his head and smiled. It seems that I can't reveal too much, or else I'll suffer a backlash from the laws. In my current state, I can't resist the backlash from the laws. You were able to make it all the way here, which is not bad. You even obtained the demon god's eye. I'm sure no one in the demon race would dare to believe this, not even that arrogant guy from back then. The middle-aged man smiled. I'm actually looking forward to what you'll get next. If you can really take away that thing that guy left behind, then it'll be fun. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see it, so I can only place my hopes on you. Time is limited, so I used the last of my spirit energy to leave behind a technique. When you see it, don't look down on it. Once you learn it, it won't be any weaker than your lightning manipulation art. After he finished speaking, the middle-aged man pointed his finger at Zichen's glabella. Countless holy light diagrams bloomed, turning into a light spot between Zichen's eyebrows and entering Zichen's consciousness sea. Sort of lightning. This was the technique left behind by the senior. Just these 3 words sounded a little shabby, and it was much worse than the lightning controlling technique. But since the senior had specially instructed, Zichen took it to heart and decided to cultivate it when he had time. By the time he reacted and was about to express his gratitude, the senior's body had already dissipated. He had disappeared. He had disappeared from the world forever. There was no possibility of him coming back to life. Before he disappeared, he had left behind a spell, but not a name. The group of demons looked at Zichun in shock. Just a moment ago, they were very worried about Zichun. Fortunately, his spell was somewhat special, and he was able to change his power in time, so he didn't die on the spot. The countless rays of light that were gathering at the center of his brows shocked many people. Could this be the inheritance left behind by the Spirit Clan Saint? At this moment, the demonic light around his body started to circulate again, and a strong repulsive force appeared. Zichun's body flew backward, and he coughed up blood when he landed. At the front, the skeleton that could block a half-step Holy Venerate turned into dust and disappeared. The crowd was in an uproar again. Many demon experts smiled. As for the 8-star Zichun, no one paid any attention to him. After all, Zichun's cultivation level was too low. If he hadn't coincidentally grasped such a useless spell, he wouldn't have been qualified to receive the attention of so many experts. This was also what Zichun wanted to achieve. He wanted everyone to think that he was just lucky, and that the blood he coughed up midway was not in vain. Without the skeleton blocking the way, everyone walked toward the demon god palace in front of them. Zichun was still at the back. He didn't fight with the others. When the senior disappeared, he revealed that there was something left behind by the demon god, but he didn't say what it was exactly. No one paid any attention to Zichun because it was very obvious that he had been forcefully pushed back in the end. He was destined to not be able to obtain the inheritance of the Spirit Clan Saint. Even if he could obtain it, it would be useless to the demons. Furthermore, no one treated him as a threat because he was only an 8-star expert. After entering the demon god palace, no danger appeared. Everyone seemed to be taking a stroll, or perhaps they were here to look around. They walked into the demon god palace. Zichun was the last to enter. After he walked in, the door behind him closed on its own. Zichun's expression changed slightly. He looked around vigilantly, but nothing abnormal appeared. Furthermore, Zichun discovered that the others were the same as him. They were at a loss of what to do. In the outside world, the groups that were still trying to advance were pushed back by a powerful force after the Lightning Divine Palace closed. After they returned to their original positions, the demon creatures that were originally in charge of testing them all disappeared. At the same time, a light screen appeared in the sky, as if it had divided the world into two, blocking everyone on one side. The resources of the demon god no longer had anything to do with the people present. Many people were disappointed inside because this was probably the only chance they would have in their lives. Lu Zhen did not care. His harvest this time was not small. After returning, even if he could not become a half-step Saint Venerable, his strength would at least improve. He might even be able to become a royal. Right now, the only thing he was looking forward to was Zichun. As long as Zichun could destroy their plan, it would be a great merit. When the door of the palace closed and everyone was on high alert, a huge picture scroll appeared above their heads. The picture scroll showed a messy battlefield. On this battlefield, there were people fighting. Or rather, it was the Spirit Clan and the Demon Clan fighting. The Spirit Clan were all invaders. Their fighting strength was extremely powerful. Looking at the battlefield, everyone was probably a Saint Venerable. With so many Saint Venerables gathered together, the picture was extremely shocking. However, the battle shown in the picture was not very optimistic. Demon experts were killed one after another. The battle was practically one-sided. How despicable. Our demon clan is fighting openly. However, those Spirit Clan members are actually helping and colluding with each other, a demon clan member said disdainfully. A demon who couldn't stand the sight of the battle said with dissatisfaction. A few people at the side nodded in agreement, cursing the shamelessness of the Spirit Clan. Zichun could clearly see that the Spirit Clan member that the Demon Clan member spoke of killed 2 Demon Clan Holy Venerables by himself. After that Spirit Clan member was injured, a Spirit Clan member came to treat him. As far as Zichun knew, the combat prowess of the Demon Clan was higher than that of the Spirit Clan. This was not just the case in the demonic world, but also in the Holy Spirit realm. However, based on the current picture, it would not be difficult for these Spirit Clan members to kill 2 Demon Clan members of the same cultivation level each. The scene continued. The devil race suffered heavy casualties. This made many people unable to bear it. After all, the spirit race had always been the lowest level existence in their eyes. However, in this scene, the lowest level spirit race was actually beating their Saint Venerables to the point that they didn't have any temper. Saint Venerables were killed one after another. Furthermore, this picture seemed to be real. Occasionally, one could hear the arrogant laughter of the spirit clan members, as well as their curses. Little demon clan members, die. Do you think that you will not die if you hide in your nest? You dare to invade our spirit clan with your puny cultivation? Die. Weak little demon clan member, your bare body is so handsome that it is ugly. When the demon clan members heard these voices, they started cursing. Some people even shouted, "If you have the ability to show up now, I will definitely make you die without a complete corpse." The clamoring crowd seemed to have forgotten that they had been blocked by that skeleton that had died countless years ago. If they could not even defeat a skeleton, how could they be a match for these living existences? Many angry demon clan members started cursing the owner of this picture. Did he bring out this picture to let them know how their ancestors had been humiliated in front of the spirit clan and how weak they were? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out. "Spirit clan, since you have voluntarily walked into my trap, then don't leave." The moment this voice appeared, the temperature in the hall seemed to drop by a lot. The demon clan members who had been cursing earlier all shut their mouths and kept quiet out of fear. It was clearly the voice of the picture, but it affected all the holy spirits. The expressions of those who had received the inheritance of the demon god changed, including Zichen, because that was the voice of the demon god. He had already heard it once before. There was no trace of the demon god in the picture, but many demon clan holy venerables appeared. After they appeared, they charged towards the spirit clan members. Their combat strength might not be strong, but they had the advantage in numbers. They began to work together, ganging up on one spirit clan member. At this moment, the spirit clan members were suppressed by the many demon clan members. No demon clan member said that these people did not have the spirit to fight one-on-one. Unsurprisingly, the spirit clan members died one after another. At this moment, the demon god's voice rang out again. "Not only will I kill all of you here, but I will also use the formation here to refine your corpses. They will become nourishment for my demon clan descendants. *CK your mother's ass. Even if I disappear from this world, I will not let you demon clan members get away with it." A huge spirit clan beast spoke in a human voice. He laughed loudly. "I've killed too many of your holy venerables. My death is worth it." Faced with the siege, this spirit clan beast was no match for them. He died on the spot, but his corpse still towered between the heavens and the earth, not collapsing. Even in death, he still stood tall. Whoosh! A bolt of lightning sword chi shot into the sky, as if it wanted to split the picture in two. Below the picture, a high-spirited middle-aged man stood up, sword in hand. He was the senior Zichun had met before. He was also the leader of the spirit clan this time. He stood in the sky and said indifferently, "Use whatever means you have. If you want us holy venerables to help you demon clan, I, Lei Yutian, will be the first to disagree." A bolt of lightning sword chi shot into the sky, and the picture began to shake. Chapter 42:28. When the lightning sword fell, the scroll began to shake violently. The image was no longer clear. Zichun remembered the name, Lei Yutian. The demon god's voice sounded again. He said coldly, "In my demon god scroll, your power will be suppressed. It will be impossible for you to break out of the scroll and escape." Lei Yutian's second sword fell. This time, it was even stronger. A fine crack appeared in the sky, but it quickly recovered. "It's useless. In this scroll, I am invincible. The array has been activated. All of you will die. Your corpses will be refined by the array and become resources for the future growth of our demon race." The demon race's Saint Venerables kept attacking. During this time, the spirit race's Saint Venerables died because they were surrounded by enemies several times their number. The other demons stopped clamoring. Seeing the spirit race's Saint Venerables die, they were in a good mood. However, when the spirit race's Saint Venerables died, the demon race's Saint Venerables would die even more. The difference in power between the two sides was obvious, but there were too many demon race's Saint Venerables. Lei Yutian was still calmly attacking. After a few strikes, a huge crack appeared in the sky. The scroll had been cut open by Lei Yutian. A clear crack appeared in the sky. Lei Yutian said, "Everyone, follow me back to the spirit world." With a wave of his hand, a glowing object flew forward. It was a seed the size of a walnut. It fell into the crack he had just cut open. This seed was extraordinary. It could devour the power of the void. It quickly sprouted and grew into a small tree. A flower bud grew at the top of the tree. The flower bud bloomed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, it turned into a flower. The stamen filled the entire crack tightly, preventing the painting from healing. In the stamen, a hexagram teleportation array appeared. "You actually brought a transrealm spirit core here? What a big deal." The demon god sneered. "But you still can't leave. This is my territory. You have restrained the scroll, but I still have the laws of this world." The scroll could no longer heal, so the demon god began to mobilize the power of the laws. "I will seal this place completely. None of you will be able to leave." The demonic god finally appeared in the picture scroll. He was tall and huge. If not for the billowing demonic chi around him, he would have looked no different from the spirit race. He carried the power of heaven and earth and descended into the world of the scroll painting. He sneered with a look of victory on his face. Lei Yutian shifted his gaze and looked at the demon god. A meaningful smile appeared on his face. In the next moment, everyone saw a dazzling lightning appear in the painting. The lightning transformed into a sword of lightning, emitting boundless light. It approached from afar and arrived in front of the demonic god. He pierced through it. Lei Yutian stood behind the demon god, holding a light sword in his hand. The blade of the sword was stained with blood. The power of heaven and earth that the demon god had brought with him dissipated. On his chest, there was a sword mark that had completely penetrated his body. The blood of the demon god gushed out from the sword mark. There was an uproar all around. No one thought that the demon god that had just appeared would actually suffer such heavy injuries. Just how strong was the Thunder Clan's Saint Venerable with the sword? Even a demon god could be injured? What a pity! What a pity! Lei Yutian looked at the light sword in his hand with regret in his eyes. "I purposely held back my strength just for this sword. I can't believe I didn't manage to kill you. What a pity, but I also feel wronged." Crack! The light sword in his hand broke in half. The spiritual energy in it dissipated. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His face turned pale. He slowly turned around and looked at the demon god in front of him. The demon god also looked at Lei Yutian with disbelief in his eyes. "So your target was me?" Lei Yutian said. "Only by killing you can the spirit race truly usher in peace. You must die." The demon god said, "But I'm still alive and you're about to die." Lei Yutian snorted. "So what? I've already injured your foundation. Even if you're still alive, how long can you live?" Lei Yutian looked up at the sky. "Heaven's will. Everything is heaven's will." Then his eyes sharpened. "But the fate of the spirit race is in our hands. It's not up to heaven's will to decide. You, on the other hand, were just lucky. Unfortunately, I won't be able to bring back this important information." The demon god suddenly coughed up blood. His aura immediately withered. He'd thought that this scheme would make the demon race rich, but he'd never imagined that these people's target would be him. Lei Yutian looked up at the sky. His weapon was broken, and so was his life. That sword attack had gathered all his strength. He'd crossed realms for this sword attack. His eyes were filled with nostalgia and unwillingness. Finally, he sighed. They really do exist. They're part of the spirit race's calamity. Back then, your proof was correct. But where did you go? I don't believe you've died. The demon god ignored Lei Yutian. Although he was still alive, he wasn't in a good state. He had to hurry. He used his remaining strength to heal the painting. The spirit core also changed from its blooming state to its sealed state. Like a discordant light, it merged with the painting. The battle below was nearing its end. All the spirit race's Saint Venerables had died. The demon race had won, but it was a Pyrrhic victory. The formation has been activated, and no one can leave here alive. You have two choices. One is to decompose yourselves into the world's pure demonic energy, and one day, when it is activated, you can help the younger generation of the demon race accumulate resources. The second is to wait for the passage of time to erode your corpses and destroy everything you are. These were the choices the demon god had given them. Almost without hesitation, the dead demon race's Saint Venerables chose the former. Their corpses immediately disappeared, turning into pure demonic energy that filled the world. The spirit race's Saint Venerables stood tall. Even if they disappeared forever, they wouldn't leave anything behind for the demon race in the future. Seeing this, Zichen understood why he'd only seen the spirit race's Saint Venerables, but not the demon race's Saint Venerables. The demon race's power that had been given away for free was the power of the Saint Venerables after they died. Because they'd miscalculated, the formation had been activated. No one could leave alive, including the demon race's Saint Venerables who hadn't died yet. The killing formation had been activated. Their lives would only be destroyed. Rather than dying slowly, it was better to disappear. So they chose to decompose themselves. At this point, all the Saint Venerables who'd come, except for the demon god and Lei Yutian, had died. But it was only a matter of time before the two of them died. The demon god had used the last of his strength to arrange everything. He was waiting for the formation to disappear after a few years. The things he'd left behind would bring new hope to the demon race. All the demon race's Saint Venerables watched this scene quietly. Their emotions were indescribably complicated. The demon god stood outside the demon god palace. Lei Yutian also descended from the sky. The demon god looked at Lei Yutian, who'd ruined his plan. He asked calmly, "They've all made their choice. What will you do?" Chapter 42:29. The demonic god thought he had tricked the Saint Venerables of the spirit race and could kill them all. But he didn't expect that the real purpose of these invaders was to kill him. So, he had delivered himself to his doorstep. Now, the foundation of the Great Path had been destroyed. If it wasn't for that mysterious power, he would have died. And he was trapped here and couldn't leave. Originally, he had set up a killing formation for the spirit race. Now, even he was involved. But at this point, the demonic god was very open-minded and didn't have much resentment. Hearing Lei Yutian's words, he said, "Guard the door?" Lei Yutian nodded and said, "Yes. The obstacles you designed are almost easy. They are just free opportunities. What's the point? You can't live anyway. Don't you want your legacy to be taken by someone who is worthy?" Lei Yutian pointed at his feet. "So I'm here to guard the door for you. I will eliminate all those who are not worthy." Just as Lei Yutian finished his sentence, many of the demons subconsciously turned to look at Zichen. He was the one who had destroyed the skeleton. Could it be that he was the strongest cultivator? Zichen pretended to be absorbed in looking at the sky and didn't notice those strange looks. The demonic god knew what Lei Yutian was thinking and said, "Up to you." Lei Yutian said, "Then please." The demonic god looked around. He was about to leave and was a bit reluctant. He seemed to want to say something before leaving. He said, "Why do you have to do this? The fate of the spirit race has been decided. Why do you have to make a pointless struggle?" Lei Yutian said, "I said that we are the masters of our own fate. It's not up to others to tell us what to do. Besides, we have achieved something, haven't we? After this battle, what will the demonic race have left? You will naturally hide and develop, and the spiritual realm will welcome peace. When the demonic race grows and wants to invade the spiritual realm again, you will find that the spirit race has been peaceful for countless years and has produced many strong cultivators." The demon god snorted and said, "You're dreaming. Maybe after countless years, your spirit race will be too weak to even stand up to the wind, far from being a match for my demon race." Lei Yutian said, "Let's wait and see." The demonic god sighed and said, "You are still too naive. The will of heaven is hard to fathom. Do you understand? Let the latecomer give the answer." As soon as he finished speaking, the demon god's body disintegrated and spread out in all directions. Seeing this, Zichen's pupil shrank, because the pair of eyes he obtained were actually the eyes of a real demon god. It was a real eye, not a refined spiritual treasure. At the same time, the expressions of the others also changed. When Lei Yutian saw this, he couldn't help but sneer. The Grand Tao is gone, so what's the point of leaving these things behind? How much power do you think they will retain after so many years? How could you possibly understand my methods? The demon god disappeared. At this point, all the rumors had been revealed. The demonic god was indeed dead, and he had died in this world. Apart from feeling sorrowful, everyone also felt quite excited because that rumor had come true. As long as they obtained this place's legacy, they would be able to become a new demon god. Just as the demon god disappeared, the earth began to shake, and a mountain rose from the ground. Lei Yutian glanced at the demonic shrine, then turned around, his back facing the shrine. If this is your last resort, then I'll be your loyal guard. I'll protect this place well, and won't let anyone in until I'm completely dead. Lei Yutian stood there, his vitality gradually fading away. It was not until many years later that Zichun came here and saw what was left of his soul power. The scene was over, but what puzzled everyone was, where was the opportunity? One had to know that they were already standing in the demon god temple, but where was the opportunity left behind by the demon god? Zichun raised his head and glanced at the scroll. His expression changed slightly. At this moment, a person suddenly leaped into the air and headed straight for the painting. As soon as he approached, a ripple surged out from the painting and a layer of protection appeared. The person immediately punched out, shattering the protection with one punch, and then entered the painting. When the others saw this, they all followed suit. The opportunity was inside the painting. Soon, everyone flew in, and only Zichun was left. Zichun closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his vision had changed. This hall was not real, but an illusory existence. Everything that everyone saw before was an illusion. Zichun's original plan was to take away this demon god temple, because this was the demon god's hall, and it was obviously a supreme treasure. Unfortunately, there was nothing real here. Zichun looked up at the painting. The painting was also fake, and it was just an entrance. It seems that the real inheritance and opportunity are at the entrance of the painting. Zichun shook his head, and his vision returned to normal. His figure flashed, and he entered the painting. As soon as Zichun entered the world of the painting, he sensed powerful energy fluctuations. It was a battle between half-step sacred venerables. Not far from the two, there was a black stone platform with a demonic weapon stabbed into it. Even though it was not far from that place, Zichun could still sense the dense demon god aura. That was the demon god's weapon. No wonder the two half-step sacred venerables were fighting so fiercely. Zichun deliberately took a detour. That demonic weapon was useless to him. Right now, he only wanted to find the spirit core that could allow him to leave. As long as he found the spirit core, he could leave, and his mission would be completed. As for the demon god's other opportunities and inheritance, Zichun did not care too much about them. After all, he was a spiritual race member. After he returned, his disguise would disappear, and he would not be able to continue using the demon god's eye. As he moved forward, Zichun discovered that a few more of the demon god's weapons had appeared. Furthermore, all of them were intact. There was no danger in the surroundings. If they did not fight among themselves, they could just take the weapons. This made Zichun very suspicious. Was the demon god really so rich back then? Furthermore, was he really so good to his juniors, taking all the good things as he pleased? Subconsciously, Zichun used the demon god's eye. In this region, the demon god's eye allowed Zichun to see his surroundings even more clearly. Shao Chun first looked at the demonic weapons that everyone was fighting over. Then, his expression changed slightly. The reason for that was because those demon god armaments were all fake and illusory. However, these illusory things were actually so real. Furthermore, even half-step sacred venerables could not sense them. This made Zichun feel admiration for that fallen demon god. How strong was his soul energy? As Zichun swept his gaze across the demonic weapons, he did not see anything that truly existed. Everyone was just fighting for air, that's all. Chapter 42:30. Boom, boom, boom. Powerful energy surged. The half-step holy venerables all used their strongest techniques. They would not stop until one of them was dead. This was especially true for the powerful existences who had obtained the demonic god's inheritance. They had the power to destroy the world, as if they wanted to completely destroy this area. Fist lights soared into the sky. Leg shadows covered the world. They were all the demonic god's inheritances. Aside from the half-step holy venerables, the other 9-star holy spirits were also fighting. This time, there was no hypocritical modesty between them. They were only fighting to the death. Comparatively speaking, Zichun was the safest because he was only an 8-star holy spirit. No one cared about him. Furthermore, he had no intention of fighting for the treasures. Hence, he was the most relaxed. A half-step holy venerate was the first to gain something. He used the demonic god's fist to force his opponent back. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed the large saber. He instantly exerted his strength and pulled out the saber. In an instant, the world lost its color. Demonic chi surged. The demonic god's might swept through the world. The others were envious. Zichun was shocked. With the demonic god's eye, he could clearly see that the half-step holy venerate had nothing in his hand. However, that strong perception was so clear and obvious. This showed how powerful the demonic god was back then. Senior Lei Yutian was able to sever the demonic god's foundation with one strike. Clearly, he was also extremely extraordinary. Zichun walked forward, deliberately avoiding the crowd as if he was on a scenic tour. He came to a mound. There was something there. It was already covered in dust and looked very unremarkable. Zichun came to the mound and bent down to pick it up. He gently shook his hand, and the dust fell. In an instant, Zichun's hand released a dazzling light. This was a picture scroll that had been closed. Zichun did not hesitate to open it. At this moment, a hearty laugh rang out. Only a pair of eyes are qualified to obtain this painting. Young man, you are very good. This was the demonic god's voice. It rang out right in front of Zichun. This made Zichun's heart tighten. The demonic god looked at Zichun. He was indeed not dead. Or rather, he still had his spiritual sense. The demon god said, "Junior, state your name." Zichun glanced at the demon god and calmly said, "Imo-chun." The demon god nodded and asked, "Do you know who I am?" Zichun immediately cupped his hands and said, "Imo-chun greets Lord Devil God." The demon god was very satisfied with Zichun's respect. He sized up Zichun with a strange light in his eyes. Zichun suddenly felt like he had been seen through. Your soul force is very pure, which is extremely rare. However, your soul force seems to be a bit strange, and there is a trace of the spirit race's aura in it. The demon god's murmur was like a bolt from the blue in Zichun's ears. Zichun once again clasped his hands and said, reporting to the devil god, "I come from an ordinary family and have never received any formal training since I was young. My talent was also not good, and I accidentally ate a fruit that glowed, which allowed me to reach my current level." The world was full of strange things. The demon god was only a little surprised, but he did not pursue the matter. "You obtained the eye of the demon god?" asked the demon god. "My luck is very good, and I thank the demon god for his generous gift," said Zichun. The demon god said, "Do you know why I left this scroll to you, the one who obtained the eye of the demon god?" Zichun shook his head and said, "Imo-chun is stupid. I hope the demon god can tell me." In fact, Zichun could have guessed it, but he deliberately acted like he was not very smart. "Because I want the people of the future to remember that when they encounter the damned spirit race, they must not be careless. They must see things for what they are." The demon god had obviously experienced this personally. He originally thought that this was a scheme against the spirit race's Saint Venerables, but he did not expect to lose his life as well. The eye of the demon god can see through illusions and see the truth. Once you invade the world of the spirit race, with the guidance of the eye of the demon god, you will not have to worry about the spirit race's schemes. The demon god's remnant spiritual sense spoke, and Zichun listened quietly, occasionally nodding to show that he understood. The demon god looked around and saw that all the demons were looking in his direction. His body was motionless, as if he was in a frozen space. The demon god scroll can be given to you, and you can control the spirit core channel inside, but the final demon gods will must be obtained by you. However, although your cultivation level is very low, the purity of your soul power has shocked even me. Even in our era, with such soul power, you would be outstanding among your peers. The demon god paused and said, "Actually, I think very highly of you. But whether or not you have the strength to obtain the final demon god's will depend on you. However, if you can use a part of the scroll's power right now to suppress their cultivation level, there may be a chance of success. However, you do not have much time." The demon god's voice fell, and his body disappeared back into the scroll. He did not disappear, which made Zichun even more nervous. He was very worried that he would expose some flaw. Everything returned to normal. The scroll in Zichun's hand was blooming with countless rays of light. At this moment, he was the focus of everyone's attention. Zichun looked at everyone and said, "It's just a useless thing. It doesn't have any aura. It's far from the demon god's weapon. You guys continue." As Zichun spoke, he retreated. But who would believe him? The scroll was still blooming with countless rays of light. It could not be suppressed, so how could it be ordinary? Moreover, many people suspected that this scroll was the demon god scroll that they had seen before. If it was, then it would be a supreme treasure. After all, the picture scroll could trap many spiritual race Saint Venerables inside. "Kill him," said a half-step Saint Venerate indifferently. He did not immediately move forward because he did not want to give up on the weapon that was so close. Moreover, Zichun was only an 8-star Saint Spirit, so it should be very easy to deal with him. Practically all the other half-step Saint Venerates made the same decision. They would snatch the weapon in front of them first. As for the scroll, they would snatch it after they obtained the weapon and grew stronger. Seeing so many 9-star Saint Spirits moving forward, Zichun's eyes lit up, and he smiled. "Since you all insist on being arrogant, then heaven is giving you a chance. It will be hard for you not to fight for it." Zichun immediately circulated his soul energy and gathered it in the scroll. He had to refine the scroll first. The demon god was still watching. He had to fight for the final opportunity. Not to mention whether he could snatch it or not, he had to at least exhaust the demon god's spiritual sense. Otherwise, if he exposed himself and got surrounded by these half-step Saint Venerates, it would be troublesome. Hence, Zichun chose to retreat when he saw these 9-star Saint Spirits charging forward. Chapter 42:31. Zichun, who was running away, was trying to buy himself more time to refine the scroll. As for those 9-star Saint Spirits, they could just chase after them. If it was really like a game of cat and mouse, it would be great to play until he could control the scroll. Whoosh! A sword light cut through the sky and went straight for Zichun's back. Zichun tapped his foot and dodged quickly. Like a stream of light, he avoided the attack of the sword light in time. The sword light turned back when the attack missed. The sky darkened, and a 5-fingered palm print appeared. Demonic, she rolled and fell from the sky. The descending palm print continued to enlarge, covering the sky and the sun. Zichun's figure immediately sped up, barely dodging this attack. The earth roared, and a deep palm print appeared on the ground. Just as he escaped the range of the palm print, another black mountain fell from the sky and smashed down on his head. This time, Zichun was unable to dodge. There was a loud boom, and the mountain exploded. However, the scene of an 8-star Holy Spirit dying on the spot did not happen. Instead, they saw Zichun, who was protected by a demonic light, flying forward at a very fast speed. The 9-star Saint Spirit who was hit was slightly stunned. He did not die. Although the demon god's mind had returned to the scroll, after the scroll was unfolded, his soul power began to count down. Now, even if he was in the scroll, he could clearly see what was happening outside. At the same time, he felt that the soul power of this person called Imo-chan was really amazing. Previously, he was a bit euphemistic. Now that he was in the scroll and felt Zichun's soul power, he was a little envious of this person called Imo-chan. Because when he was an 8-star Saint Spirit, he did not have such pure and strong soul power. Now, Imo-chan's realm was a little low, so it was a little difficult for him to refine the scroll. If he was a 9-star Saint Spirit, it would be much easier. Of course, his scroll was extraordinary. Imo-chan could refine it as an 8-star Saint Spirit, which was unique. He just did not know how strong the other's combat strength was. The demon god had some expectations in his heart. When he was counting down to the end of his life, he was very gratified to find such a junior in the demon race. Sure enough, powerful soul power did not mean that one's strength and speed were extraordinary. Emo-chan was soon blocked by the 9-star holy spirits. Next, they would have to fight. The demonic god was looking forward to it. If their battle prowess was even stronger, it would be perfect. Unexpectedly, after the first round, Emo-chan, whom he had been expecting, was sent flying by a 9-star saint spirit. Although he didn't die on the spot, he looked very weak. The demonic god was stunned. How could this be? Zi-chan, who was sent flying backward, quickly ran away. However, he encountered a second 9-star saint spirit. Once again, Zi-chan was sent flying and tried to escape. The demon god couldn't believe it. How could someone with such powerful soul power be so weak? However, after several confrontations with the 9-star saint spirit, the demon god understood that this kid was hiding his strength and was still stalling for time. So he reminded him, if you continue to delay, the situation will be very bad for you. Because they have many people, they don't have to worry about consumption. However, your strength is limited after all. If you don't want to fight, you can throw away the scroll. In this way, not only can you divert their attention, but you can also survive. Of course, if you want to fight, you can only use your combat strength to awe them. Zi-chan understood the meaning of the demon god's words. It was nothing more than asking him to fight. This made Zi-chan a little happy in his heart because the demon god could not wait any longer. Maybe he would disappear soon, and then it would be time for him to run away. However, since the demon god wanted to see his battle prowess, he naturally had to satisfy him. What if the demon god was happy and excited and disappeared in advance? So, Zi-chan once again faced a 9-star saint spirit. The other party had a hideous smile on his face. Zi-chan also smiled, and the demonic light on his fist surged. Boom! A powerful wave of chi surged, forming ripples that spread out. Zi-chan did not slow down and flew into the distance, while the 9-star saint spirit was sent flying backward. The situation was reversed in an instant. Such a scene stunned all the 9-star saint spirits. They thought that this was a weak little chicken that could not stand a gust of wind, and no one really took him seriously. They did not expect that he had been hiding his strength all this time. Was this a classic case of playing the pig to eat the tiger? Zi-chan then burst out with full strength, and all the demons in contact with him were sent flying by him. You can indeed fight above your level. While you have strong soul power, your combat strength is also very good. The demon god nodded, satisfied with this. At this moment, Zi-chan shouted, "Don't force me, I don't want to kill." Hearing this, the demon god's eyes lit up and said, "Which demon powerhouse's growth is not built on mountains of corpses and seas of blood? The weak are prey to the strong. This is the unchanging law of survival." Zi-chan said again, "I don't want to kill. You really don't force me." The demons at the back began to laugh, and of course, there was no lack of cursing. The demon god was egging him on. He wanted to see if this Emo-chan could kill people above his level. Oh, I forgot to remind you. If you are too far away from them, those illusory demon god auras may disappear. The demon god suddenly reminded him. Zi-chan's face immediately turned cold. "My lord, why didn't you say such an important thing earlier?" Zi-chan began to regret. If he had known this would happen, he would not have gone in circles with these people. Kill if you need to. A light flashed in his hand, and a demonic saber that had undergone lesser refinement appeared. The next moment, Zi-chan's figure disappeared. He came to the side of a 9-star saint spirit and raised his saber. With a puff, a human head flew high into the air. A 9-star saint spirit died in an instant. A light flashed under Zi-chan's feet, and he disappeared again. He appeared in front of a second demon and continued to slash. As expected, the second 9-star saint spirit was beheaded. Zi-chan really wanted to kill, for himself and for the Ling clan. If he killed more demons now, the Ling clan would have fewer enemies in the future. His eyes were cold and cruel. They had been laughing at Zi-chan's existence, but now they were all dumbfounded. In the blink of an eye, 4 9-star demons had died. The demon god was very excited. This was the battle strength that should be matched with powerful soul power. Not only could he fight above his level, but he could also easily kill enemies above his level. He was very gratified to hand over his inheritance to the other party. The fifth demon fell. The sixth died. The original 9-star Saint Spirits chased after Zichun like a dog, but now the situation was reversed. Everyone began to flee in panic. Zichun held a long saber in his hand and followed behind like a god of death. There were no powerful demon techniques, only the simplest killing moves, but each one was fatal. This was the real killing technique. The movement here immediately attracted the attention of the half-step holy venerables. They frowned and began to hesitate. At this moment, the demon god weapons that they were fighting for suddenly disappeared. Chapter 42:32. It was unknown whether it was because the demon god's time was up or because of some other reason, but the illusory demon god weapons started disappearing one after another, scattering like smoke. They could no longer maintain the illusion. The expressions of the half-step holy venerates who were fighting over the treasures all changed in disbelief when they saw this scene. The half-step holy venerate who had already snatched a weapon was completely stunned. The weapon in his hand disappeared. All the other weapons in his sight also disappeared. The feeling of reality that he had obtained earlier was fake. Everything was fake. How could this be? Everyone was stunned. Could it be that the scene of them fighting to the death just now was all fake? Cries for help rang out from behind. Zichun was still killing with his saber. Everything else was fake. Only Zichun's painting was real. At this moment, everyone's gazes were fixed on Zichun. Lord Demon God, what is going on? Zichun also sensed the abnormality in front and quickly asked. Everything earlier was shown by the demon god's painting. Now that the painting is in your hands, it will be refined. Without the painting's soul energy, everything will return to normal. The demon god was in a good mood, smiling as he replied. If an 8-star demon god already had such strength, then what would happen when he reached the holy venerate realm? The demon god now had high expectations for Imo-chan. Zichun's thoughts raced as he asked, then what should I do? Those half-step holy venerates had already stopped fighting. Furthermore, they were all looking at Zichun with unfriendly gazes, like hunters staring at their prey. This made Zichun's hair stand on end. No matter how strong he was, he could not be a match for these half-step holy venerates. Furthermore, some of these half-step holy venerates had a portion of the demon god's power. Continue fighting. The demon god said, don't you want the final good thing? Zichun actually wanted to say that he did not want it. However, he did not dare to reveal any flaws. Thus, he said without batting an eyelid, I already obtained the painting. I might as well retreat and not fight for the final opportunity. They are too strong. I am not a match for them at all. This kind of opportunity only comes once in a lifetime. As the owner of the scroll, you should fight for it. The demon god's tone was somewhat harsh. After saying this, his aura suddenly weakened. At this moment, Zichun noticed an abnormal fluctuation in the sky. He looked up and saw a glowing ball. Inside the ball was the demonic will of the demon god. Those half-step holy sovereigns were already charging forward. Zichun began to retreat. At the same time, he pointed to the sky and shouted, the biggest opportunity is there. Hurry up and snatch it. The group of half-step holy venerates raised their heads but did not see anything. He had been played. He had been tricked again. Everyone's eyes turned even colder. Zichun didn't understand why everyone wasn't fighting for the greatest opportunity in this place. Instead, they were all rushing toward him. The demon god smiled and said, currently, only you can see what you are talking about. Others cannot see it. Zichun suddenly understood and cursed his bad luck. These people could not see the resources, so of course they would think that he was lying. They had already been tricked. For something that did not exist, they had continuously fought and even risked their lives. They had lost a lot of face. Now, he had said something that they could not see. The group of half-step holy sovereigns naturally thought that he was mocking them. If they didn't kill him, who would they kill? Zichun couldn't voice his bitterness. Facing such a situation, he actually had a plan in his heart, but the enemy coming so quickly was still beyond his expectations. Zichun did not believe that this had nothing to do with the demon god's remnant will. But so what? He could not fall out with the demon god now. Since the demon god had the ability to play some tricks, he naturally had the ability to put Zichun in an even greater predicament. Right now, Zichun could only accept his fate. One of the half-step holy venerates closest to Zichun already arrived before him. Before he made a move, his holy venerate aura already made Zichun feel threatened. After all, Xiao Chun was only an 8-star holy venerate. Zichun circulated the energy in his body at full force. He did not dare to be careless and formed a defense. A light of magic lit up and protected him in the middle. In such a situation, you should actually try to take the initiative to attack. The demon god's remnant will at the side was still making sarcastic remarks. Zichun could not say anything. The half-step holy venerate approached, and a horrifying attack landed on Zichun's defense. With an intense boom, Zichun's defense broke, and he quickly retreated. Now that Zichun truly felt the strength of a half-step holy venerate, he realized how strong that cultivation was. Even though he had taken the wrong path, this cultivation was still much stronger than a 9-star holy spirit. As Zichun flew back, the half-step holy venerate caught up and attacked again. Zichun could only cross his arms to block. Bang! The energy trembled again, and Zichun continued to fly back. The demon god's remnant will commented, "Your physical body is pretty good as well." Zichun was so angry that he wanted to curse. After he stabilized his body, he turned and ran. There were only 10-odd half-step holy venerates here. Zichun was not a match for them. He could only wait patiently for the demon god's remnant will to disappear. Then, he would take the opportunity to escape. "Where do you think you are going?" A cold voice rang out beside Zichun. It was a half-step holy venerate who arrived before Zichun. This was someone who had obtained the demon god's leg energy. His speed was much faster than ordinary people of the same cultivation realm. Just as this voice rang out, Zichun started to dodge. Once the strong energy swept past, even if he did not die, he would be injured. Who knew? Right after Zichun dodged, danger approached him. It was another person who had obtained the demon god's strength. This person grasped the timing very well. It was like he had been standing there for a long time, waiting for Zichun to arrive. Just as Zichun felt that something was wrong, the other party's attack approached. That was a full-powered kick containing the demon god's strength. Even though Zichun's physical body was not weak, if the kick landed, his bones would probably break. Just as danger approached, Zichun used the demon god's eye. The space around him seemed to twist. The kick that was about to land suddenly slowed down as though it was blocked. A demonic light flickered in Zichun's eyes, adding a trace of coldness to them. Xiao Qin's figure flashed as he punched, completing this extremely quickly. The energy exploded in front of the half-step holy venerate's chest, sending out layers of ripples. The half-step holy venerate flew back. The light in Zichun's eyes faded, and his complexion paled. This was the first time Xiao Chun used the demon god's eye on the battlefield. However, the effect was surprisingly good. However, he could only land one strike. The other half-step holy venerates had already caught up, surrounding Zichun. Chapter 42:33. Zichun was surrounded by a group of half-step sacred sovereigns. Everyone was filled with murderous intent. After all, they had not obtained anything after coming here. However, an 8-star saint spirit had obtained the demonic god's painting. They were naturally unhappy, but Zichun was calmly dealing with them. Facing such a situation, Zichun should be nervous. However, he was not. He was very calm. He calmly looked at everyone. A half-step sacred sovereign said with disdain, "You know you are going to die. Are you accepting your fate?" Zichun smiled and said, "I am seeing which one of you deserves a beating. That's why I am hesitating about who to attack first." The half-step sacred sovereign coldly said, "You don't know life from death. You are about to die, yet you still dare to boast so shamelessly." Zichun looked at him and said, "It seems like you are the one who deserves a beating the most. Then, I will start with you. You are courting death." Before Zichun could attack, the half-step sacred sovereign was already enraged. He rushed towards Zichun. The others did not move. They quietly watched. Some people's expressions changed as if they were guessing whether Zichun was telling the truth or not. In the next moment, Zichun waved his hand. The demonic god's painting opened in his hand. It looked like a mountain and river painting or a world. When the painting opened in the past, all the sacred sovereigns of the spirit race were trapped inside. If Lei Yutian had not broken the painting with his sword and placed the spirit core inside, the demonic god would have refined everyone. After so many years, the painting opened again. However, it was different this time. The one controlling the painting was the spirit race, and all the demonic race were trapped inside. The demon god laughed. He was very satisfied with the performance of this young man, Mo-chan. He had deliberately made such a move to force Mo-chan. He did not expect that Mo-chan would work so hard and master the scroll so quickly. After everyone was trapped in the painting, their postures did not change. Zichun was still surrounded. The half-step sacred sovereign who was about to attack earlier stopped with a vigilant expression. Is this the painting of the demon god? A half-step sacred venerable asked in astonishment. Zichun looked at him. What do you think? He asked mockingly. The half-step holy venerate's face darkened. In the distance were the 9-star saint spirits. When Zichun opened the scroll, he brought them in as well. None of them were left behind. Zichun said, I told you before that there was an opportunity in the sky, but you all acted like idiots and didn't believe me. And now? The half-step holy venerates exchanged glances. Perhaps it was because of Zichun's harsh tone that they did not dare to act rashly. Zichun's gaze swept past the half-step sacred venerables who had obtained the Archdevil's inheritance and continued. If you idiots can obtain the Archdevil's inheritance, how can I not? Zichun pointed to his eyes and said, See, demon god's eye? My eyes can see through illusions and see the truth. Earlier, there was indeed an opportunity. Furthermore, it was the Archdevil's most powerful soul remembrance inheritance. However, you idiots did not believe me and thought I was toying with you. Do you all believe me now? Unfortunately, it's too late. Now, tell me, who wants to be beaten up first? The current Zichun, regardless of how strong he was at least several times more arrogant than before. Everyone present was a half-step sacred venerate, the strongest person below the demon sovereign. Now, they were being taught a lesson by a mere 8-star saint spirit. Everyone looked at each other again and decided not to wait any longer. They would attack first. In an instant, all the half-step sacred venerates communicated with their soul remembrance and charged at Zichun. A mocking smile appeared on Zichun's face. I admit that you are very strong outside. However, in this Archdevil's painting, you are all insects in my eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, Zichun snapped his fingers. Laws surged in the painting, and a powerful pressure descended. The powerful auras of the half-step sacred venerates charging forward instantly weakened. In the entire realm, all the half-step sacred venerates became 9-star saints. As for the 9-star saint spirits in the distance, they became 8-star saints. Light flowed around Zichun's body. This was the protective energy of the painting. How about it? Zichun looked at the shocked holy venerates and said, You did not want a good opportunity and insisted on coming to me to get beaten up. Is there a need for this? So what if you are 9-star? I can still kill you. An 8-star? These half-step sacred venerates, who were extremely proud in the outside world, did not hesitate to work together in the current situation. How shameless! Zichun smiled coldly. Instead of retreating, he advanced. He was not confident of fighting half-step sacred venerates. However, since he was fighting 9-star saints, not to mention a dozen, he could deal with them even if more came. Xiao Chen exchanged a punch with a 9-star saint venerate whose cultivation dropped. Unsurprisingly, the other party went flying back. In the next moment, Zichun's figure flashed. He dodged many attacks and arrived before the other party. Xiao Chen raised his saber, and a demonic light flickered. A scarlet line appeared in the air as that half-step sacred venerate whose cultivation dropped moved back. He did not die. A look of surprise appeared in Zichun's eyes. Even though the other party's cultivation dropped, he still had the consciousness of a half-step sacred venerate and a strong physical body. The demonic god said, The quality of your weapon is too poor, and it is not fast. Otherwise, even if you did not die earlier, you would have been severely injured. No one else could hear this voice except for Zichun. Zichun replied helplessly, Lord Demonic God, I am just an ordinary demon. I do not have a clan behind me. I have to worry about other people's schemes all day long. Where could I get a good weapon? Only in a place like this where there are few people can I fight so wantonly. If it was outside, even if I could kill everyone, I could only tuck my tail between my legs and behave myself. Who knows, I might even have to smile when I meet them. The demonic god could understand Zichun's words. Combat prowess was indeed important. However, a clan's faction was even more important. That was the source of one's growth. Zichun had a good weapon on him, but he did not dare to take it out. If the demonic god sensed it, it would be troublesome. In such a situation, although Zichun's combat prowess was still very strong, he did not suppress them. This was especially so after these half-step, sacred venerates became cautious. It would be very difficult to injure one of them. If this situation continued, in their opinion, Zichun would still be the one at a disadvantage. However, these half-step, sacred venerates clearly did not want to continue waiting. Hence, one of them shouted impatiently, What are you all standing there for? Come over and attack together. The people present were either 9-star holy spirits or half-step sacred venerates. Now, they actually had to work together to deal with a mere 8-star holy spirit. However, they did not feel embarrassed at all. In the next moment, those 8-star holy spirits whose cultivation dropped flew over. When Zichun saw this scene, he felt somewhat helpless. He could only use some of his trump cards. Chapter 42:34. The moment the specter appeared, everyone's expression changed when they sensed its aura. Zichun gave the ghost an order. The ghost turned into a stream of light and went straight to the 8-star holy spirits who had temporarily dropped in rank. It's a fiend celestial beast. A 9-star holy spirit exclaimed. He turned out to be a half-step holy venerable. The others were also shocked because the aura emitted by the ghost was almost the same as the fiend celestial beast. This was the biggest trump card Zichun could show at the moment because he did not dare to use anything else. It was just that the shock that this move brought to everyone was still at its peak. Even the demon god's remnant thought was shocked. He did not expect Emo-chan to have such a special fiend celestial beast. Just by looking at the quality of its soul power, it was not weaker than the one that had followed him everywhere. Pure soul power, strong physical body, and strong combat strength. Coupled with the fiend celestial beast in front of him, Emo-chan was simply the best candidate for the future demon god. He was even more like a demon god than he was back then, only the power was a little strange. It had the aura of the spirit clan. However, this did not affect his good impression of Emo-chan because as long as his soul power was pure, it was enough. Soul power was the foundation of the demon clan. The ghost moved forward. When it got close, it opened its mouth and inhaled at the 8-star holy spirits. A strange force moved forward. In just one breath, 2 8-star holy spirits lost control of their soul power and left their bodies to be devoured by the ghost. When the other holy spirits saw this, they immediately retreated. Their eyes were filled with infinite horror. This fiend celestial beast killed 2 8-star holy spirits instantly. Its combat strength was simply terrifying. They were no match for it at all. They began to run. However, this was the world of the scroll. They could only escape in a very small area. In addition, their speed was not as fast as the ghost. Death was only a matter of time. On the other side, the half-step holy venerables could not do anything to Zichun for the time being. In addition, Zichun had another fiend celestial beast. Once all the 8-star holy spirits were killed, the man and the beast would join forces to kill them. When they joined forces to fight against Zichun, they began to communicate with their soul thoughts. We are no match for him here. If we continue to delay, the situation will be very unfavorable for us. Let's retreat first and take the great opportunity outside. Once we leave this place, it won't be too late to join hands and kill him. Right now, they were already considered great enemies by Zichun. Even if a group of half-step holy venerates joined forces, they would not feel ashamed. Although the devil world is big, as long as we join hands, There will be no place for that brat to hide. All right, let's work together to break out of this place. We'll kill him once we're outside. In a short moment, the group of half-step holy venerates made their decision. In the next moment, they joined forces and attacked toward the sky. Streams of power shot up into the sky. When they reached the sky, they converged together before abruptly attacking one spot. A loud boom rang out as a powerful force erupted. The space in the sky began to distort, as though it was about to shatter. You want to leave just like that? That's impossible. Have you asked me? Zichen said coldly. Hold on for a bit longer. When I can control the killing power in the scroll, I'll send you away. When the group heard this, they did not dare to stay here any longer and attacked once more. The violently distorting space shattered, and a pitch-black passage appeared in the sky. The group of half-step holy venerates did not hesitate to fly into the sky. Before they left, they did not forget to release a powerful attack to force Zichen back. As for the 8-star holy spirits, their souls had all been devoured by the specter. After retreating, Zichen steadied himself and quietly watched the group of half-step holy venerates flee. Break out of the scroll? That was impossible. They were not Lei Yutian and did not have the power of that sword. It was just that Zichen wanted them to leave. It was not that he did not want to kill them, but he did not dare to expose his identity. After the group of half-step holy venerates left, the black passage in the sky closed. A light flashed beside Zichen, and the demon god appeared. The specter that had devoured the soul power of the 8-star holy spirits was flying towards Zichen. However, when it saw the demon god, it suddenly stopped and looked at him warily. The demon god was also sizing up the specter. During this time, he used his remaining soul power to carefully investigate the specter. In the end, he sighed and said, "Amazing, really amazing." Zichen scratched his head and asked, "Is it really a demon god beast?" The demon god smiled and said, "Only the battle beasts beside the demon god are demon god beasts." Zichen immediately understood. There was no such thing as a demon god beast in this world, and there was no such thing as a pure bloodline. Only the one beside the demon god was a demon god beast. The demon god waved his hand, and a light fell from the sky. It was the demon god's soul power. Even if only a remnant soul was left, the demon god still had the absolute right to distribute the opportunities here. The previous tests were only for Zichen. Now that Zichen had passed the tests, the opportunities naturally belonged to Zichen. The demon god took the soul power and said, "You have passed the test. Now, it belongs to you." Zichen took the soul power and said excitedly, "Thank you, Lord Demon God." Zichen kept the soul power and did not immediately refine it. The demon god did not ask for the reason and continued, "Originally, everything ended here. But when I saw the soul power you used in battle, I felt a sense of déjà vu. I finally remembered where I had seen it before." The demon god took out another item. After taking out this item, his body immediately became illusory and would dissipate at any time. In his hand, a black piece of armor appeared. The armor piece emitted a strong soul power fluctuation. When Zichen saw the armor piece and sensed the power it emitted, his expression could not help but change. This was because the aura was somewhat similar to his dark ghost soul devouring technique. Or rather, the two had a feeling that they came from the same source. I accidentally obtained this. It should be a soul power cultivation technique. It's just that I haven't been able to successfully comprehend it all this time. The reason my soul has been able to persist until now is also because of this. Not only can it protect soul power at a critical moment, it can also be used as a magic treasure. The demon god said, "Now, I am giving this final item to you. I hope you can comprehend it and carry it forward. Once you become the leader of the demon race, you must kill your way into the spirit realm and completely exterminate the spirit race." The demon god said coldly, "The spirit race should not exist. It is because they are struggling at death's door that we do not have eternal peace." Zichen solemnly received the black armor piece. In Zichen's eyes, it was much more valuable than the demon god's soul power. Receiving the armor piece with both hands, Zichen expressed his thanks again. "No need to be so polite. This is your good fortune." You must remember, in the future, you must destroy the spirit race. The demon god said again. It was clear that he was very obsessed with killing the spirit race. Zichen asked, how do I kill my way into the spirit realm? The demon god said, there is a spirit core in the scroll. As long as you activate its power, you can open a passage between the two realms. However, this area has already been sealed by me. The spirit core failed once, and the laws have completely blocked it, so it cannot be opened here. After a pause, the demon god said, but I advise you not to open the passage for now. You need to grow quickly. Once you become a holy sovereign, you can gather the strength of the demon race and kill your way into the spirit realm. Zichun nodded, indicating that he understood. Without the support of the armor plate, the demon god's remnant consciousness could not hold on any longer. After exhorting Zichen a few more times to kill as many spirit tribe members as possible, his figure disappeared. Zichen, who was in the demon god's scroll, could clearly feel the demon god's aura disappear. At the same time, because of the demon god's disappearance, his control of the demon god's scroll improved. With the demon god gone, Zichun could finally relax. He let out a deep breath. He had obtained what he should have obtained and what he should not have obtained. This was a good thing. Now, he had to think about how to leave. After controlling the scroll, he knew the location of the spirit core. However, just as the demon god said, the spirit core had failed once in this sealed world, so it could not be used a second time. If he wanted to leave the demon realm and return to the spirit realm, he had to leave this sealed place first. Before that, he had to leave the world of the scroll. His figure flashed, and Zichun appeared in an open area. The half-step holy sovereigns had not left yet. They were gathered together, thinking about something. After Zichun appeared, everyone's gazes fell on him. Their gazes were extremely unfriendly. Zichun smiled and said, "What? Are you thinking about how to kill me? Do you want to try again?" He raised the scroll in his hand, and his smile carried a hint of provocation. Naturally, no one dared to make a move at this time. Zichun shook his head and said disappointedly, "It is indeed as the demon god said. You people who took the wrong path are all cowards and brainless." Zichun pointed to the sky and said, "Earlier, the demon god took out the greatest opportunity, but you all chose to reject it." He was already very disappointed. In the end, you all joined forces to fight me, but you all ran away first. He was even more disappointed. Therefore, he gave the last opportunity to me. Don't even think about it. The half-step holy sovereigns who had recovered their cultivation looked at each other with doubtful expressions. Could it be that the Fiend Celestial had seen all of this? Just at this moment, soul energy fluctuations appeared in the sky, and a passage appeared. The demon god's inheritance had been obtained, and this sealed place was about to disappear. Once the passage opened, everyone could leave. Those half-step holy venerables were the first to leave without hesitation. Even though they had gained a lot in coming here this time, although they had obtained many things, they were still lacking compared to Zichun. There were even some half-step holy sovereigns who only obtained some ordinary demonic energy. Earlier, they had fought to the death for that illusory weapon, but they had obtained nothing. Zichun followed behind unhurriedly. The mission was completed, so it was time for him to leave. Chapter 42:35. After the passageway opened, everyone left. This time, as long as they were still alive, they had gained a lot. After these people appeared, they gathered together and talked about the dangers they encountered earlier with those they were familiar with. They described the various dangers vividly as if they were reliving them. Lucian also gained a lot. However, he could not feel happy at this moment. The smile on his face was somewhat forced. He was worried about Zichun. He was not really worried about Zichun's life or death. Instead, he was worried about whether Zichun completed the mission or not. Even if Zichun completed the mission and died in battle, it was fine. As long as the mission was completed, it would be fine. Unfortunately, Lu Zhan could not see any trace of Imo-chan. This worried him. Just at this moment, beams of light flashed, and a group of half-step holy venerates appeared. Startled cries rang out in the surroundings. Lu Zhan immediately looked in that direction, feeling very nervous. There was no trace of Imo-chan. Furthermore, Lu Zhen discovered that only the half-step holy venerates appeared. Where were the other experts they brought? These half-step holy venerates did not appear to be in a good mood. Furthermore, after they appeared, they seemed to want to group up. Light flowed around their bodies. However, they did not withdraw their energy even now. It seemed like they were still on guard. This made everyone wonder what they encountered earlier. Just at this moment, another beam of light appeared. This time, there was only one beam of light. Lu Zhen walked towards that beam of light and finally saw Mo Chen. His eyes lit up with anticipation. As for the half-step holy venerates, their gazes turned cold. Which clan are you from? The half-step holy venerate who received one of Zichen's punches asked indifferently. It was as Zichen once said to the demon god. Once one returned to the demon world, one's combat prowess was no longer important. One's clan and faction would become the main thing to rely on. Clearly, the other party wanted to use his strength to suppress others. The others also sensed that something was wrong. They immediately retreated and watched silently. What does it have to do with you? Zichen glanced at the other party. When he saw the other party's sullen expression, he said indifferently, "What's wrong? You want to use your strength to suppress others? Who do you think you are?" An uproar broke out as soon as he spoke. A mere 8-star saint spirit dared to insult a half-step holy venerate like that? Many people were guessing the identity of this 8-star holy spirit. At the same time, they looked at him with pity in their eyes. No matter what faction the other party had behind him was, since he dared to offend a half-step holy venerate, his future would be miserable. "I don't care which clan you are from, but we will remember you," the half-step sovereign coldly said. "So what?" Zichen said disdainfully. "Do you think all of you idiots can suppress me? Let me tell you, ever since I obtained the inheritance of the demon god, I, Mo Chen, am part of the demon god bloodline. If you have the ability, come at me." The crowd was in an uproar again. The way everyone looked at Zichen had completely changed. Lu Zhen, on the other hand, was very excited because Mo Chen had obtained the inheritance. Perhaps it was possible to complete the task. Zichen pointed at the half-step holy venerates who had surrounded him and said, "You idiots, the moment the demon god gave up on you, you lost your future. Now, you don't hurry up and go hide. Instead, you dare to cause trouble in front of me? Do you want my demon god bloodline to kill you all?" Zichen's words were very firm. Even the half-step holy venerates could not tell if he was telling the truth or not. Furthermore, this was the first time they had heard of the demon god bloodline. Could it be that when he obtained the inheritance of the demon god, he also obtained the power of the demon god bloodline? Just as the half-step holy venerates were feeling shaken, they saw Zichen immediately take out the painting. When they saw this scene, their expressions changed again. Some of them subconsciously retreated. Zichen's eyes turned cold. Previously, the demon god saw all of this, so I naturally had to be benevolent. But now, there is no need to worry. There is no need for you to inquire about my background. After I slaughter you idiots, my name will naturally spread throughout the world. At that time, it will be impossible for you not to know about me." Zichen unfurled the scroll, and a powerful force began to vibrate, causing ripples to spread out in all directions. When the half-step holy venerates saw this, they immediately retreated. They did not know if Zichen was telling the truth or not, but they all knew that if the painting closed again, it would be very troublesome. They might really die. When one of them retreated, the others also retreated. In an instant, they opened up a large space for Zichen. Zichen unfurled the painting and controlled it to take out the spirit core. The moment the spirit core appeared, a spirit energy storm appeared in the surroundings. Aside from the half-step holy venerates, the others did not understand what this was. The spirit core took root in the void and started to grow. "This is the passage to the spiritual realm. What are you doing?" asked a half-step holy venerate. "What am I doing? Naturally, I am using the name of the demon god to summon you all. Then, we will kill our way into the spiritual realm together." Zichen mocked. "What? Are you all afraid?" The flower bud started to bloom in the sky, wildly swallowing up the spirit energy in the surroundings. The half-step holy venerate stood there, not knowing whether they should stop Xiao Chen or not. "You can't. Just at this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out. A pressure appeared in the world, the might of a true holy venerate. When this might appeared, the speed at which the spirit core absorbed spirit energy slowed. Zichen's expression changed. He had not expected there to be a holy venerate here. If the other party came out to stop him in such a situation, wouldn't he be finished? A holy venerate stood in the air and threw a palm strike downwards. A large energy hand appeared in the sky, about to collect the spirit core. Zichen stood there, not knowing what to do. The situation had already surpassed his expectations. Just as the large energy hand was about to land on the spirit core, another holy venerate's aura suddenly appeared. A person appeared out of nowhere and raised a palm strike at the same time, clashing with the large energy hand in the sky. With a loud boom, the two huge energy hands collapsed. Layers of energy waves dissipated in the sky, not affecting the spirit core below. Zichen looked up and saw that it was an old man. The old man turned his head and said, "You go first." This old man was none other than the housekeeper who had been following the Lin clan head in Demon Ward City. The other party was actually a holy venerate. At this moment, the spirit core's flowers started to bloom. A shining transportation array appeared. This was the transportation array to the spiritual realm. Zichen cupped his fists at the old man and thanked him. Then, he stepped into the transportation array. Who knew that at this moment, another person would suddenly appear beside Zichen? It was a holy venerate. This was a demon race holy venerate. After he appeared, he said coldly, "You want to leave? Do you think it's possible?" Chapter 42:36. The change happened so suddenly that no one could react in time. A demon wanted to open a passage to the spiritual realm, but a demon saint suddenly came out to stop him. It was strange, but a spirit saint came out to stop him. He seemed to want to help the demon saint. Everything seemed to have been reversed. The 8-star demon wanted to enter the spiritual realm. Everyone was puzzled. At this moment, a second demon saint appeared and stopped the demon saint in time. The energy hand moved forward to catch the demon saint. At this moment, a ray of light bloomed, and a palace with thunder and lightning suddenly appeared in front of the energy hand. Thunder and lightning bloomed and blocked the energy hand. With a boom, the giant hand collapsed, and the palace returned to its original position. With this block, the transmission was completed successfully. The light of the teleportation array disappeared along with Zichen's figure. Even now, no one could react. Or rather, they still did not understand what was going on. Lu Zhen's eyes were fixed on the sky. When he was still a member of the spirit tribe, he had heard from his master, Old Blind, that there was a holy sovereign of the spirit tribe in this world. All the spirit tribe members were secretly protected by him. The development of the spirit tribe over the years was inseparable from the help of the holy sovereign. Now, he saw him. But why did he help Emo-chan? Hadn't the spirit clan been sabotaging the demon clan's plans all this time? Why did he help them now? All kinds of doubts arose in his mind, but they soon became clear. What if the one called Emo-chan came from the spiritual realm? Everything seemed to make sense. Old Blind was such a cautious person, but he trusted Emo-chan unconditionally and was even willing to share all his secrets. Why? As a member of the Devil Clan, Emo-chan had been helping the Spirit Clan wholeheartedly. Why was that? He was so powerful, but he had never heard of this person in the demon realm. Moreover, this person seemed to be particularly interested in the land of the demon god. Now, he understood. Lu Wu, since you're here, don't leave this time. The demon race holy venerate that failed said coldly. The steward smiled and said, "If you had the ability, I would have stayed many years ago." As soon as he finished speaking, the power around the spiritual clan's Saint Venerable twisted and disappeared. When the two holy venerates saw this, they snorted coldly and turned to leave. The crowd was left dumbfounded. They had no idea what was going on. Only Lu Zhan had some clues in her heart. Zichen used the Hall of Zichen to block the attack of the Devil Saint and smoothly left the spirit world. At the same time, he controlled the spirit core to come to the spirit world. What entered Zichen's eyes was not the abundant aura of the spirit realm, but an intense murderous aura. The entire world was filled with intense killing intent. It was as if there were countless killing intents and sword intents hidden within. Zichun stood in place, looking at the desolate surroundings, puzzled. Subconsciously, he used the eye of the demon god. Everything in his field of vision became clear. The originally desolate surroundings were filled with murderous intent. Countless restrictions were linked together and spread all around. Other than the area under his feet, which was less than a meter away from him, which was absolutely safe, everything else around him was filled with killing moves. Fortunately, he did not move. If he moved, he would trigger the killing formations around him. This made Zichun very puzzled. He was brought here by the Spirit Core transportation array. Why was it that aside from the place under his feet that was safe, everything else was filled with danger? Was this not the place where the Spirit Clan returned? What if the Spirit Clan experts from back then returned? Would he not die here again? Zichun suddenly became alert. Could it be that the enemy had set up an ambush here long ago? However, if that was the case, why did the demon god make such an unnecessary move and even sacrifice his life? Just as Zichun was feeling puzzled, a voice rang out beside his ear. "Young man, how did you get here?" This sudden voice startled Zichun. He subconsciously turned around. He saw an old man. In all these years, Zichun had never seen such an old man. His back was stooped, his hair was sparse, and his face was full of wrinkles. He was dressed in wrinkled and tattered hemp clothes, and in his hand was a polished wooden crutch. The old man's eyes were cloudy, like an ordinary person. Of course, Zichun would not treat him as an ordinary person, because an ordinary person would not be able to silently sneak up behind him. Even if he used the eye of the demon god and saw an ordinary person. Demon? The old man's expression changed. Zichun said, "Spirit Clan." Zichun dispersed the power around his body, and his vigorous spiritual power reappeared. The camouflage given to him by the Tree of Lightning was removed by Zichun himself. "Why are you here?" the old man asked. Zichun explained, "After I appeared from the demon realm, I came here." "You came from the demon realm?" The old man's expression changed. Zichun took out the spirit core. "It brought me here." "I see." The old man nodded, and then fell silent. Zichun asked, "If I may ask, Senior, what exactly is going on here? Why is there killing intent everywhere?" The old man's thoughts turned, and then he carefully sized up Zichun. Zichun calmly waited for him to continue. After a while, the old man said, "The spirit core is in your hands. What about the others?" Zichun said, "They all died in battle. Not even their bones are left." The old man didn't ask for more details. "This is another part of the plan. Once everyone returns successfully, they will come here. If the devil race attacks, then this place will become the burial ground of all the devils." Zichun still did not understand, because there were killing techniques everywhere. Not only could they kill the demon race, but they could also kill the spirit race. The old man pointed at his feet. "This is a killing formation that can sense the essence of power. Any spirit race person who walks in here would be walking on flat ground, and any demon race person who enters would be in danger." Finally, the old man sighed. Obviously, the people from back then had not returned. Zichun suddenly thought of something. The old man had described it in such detail. Could it be that he was from back then? He stared with wide eyes, not daring to believe it. If he really was from back then he would be a holy sage. As if guessing what Zichun was thinking, the old man nodded. "Correct. I have lived a bit longer. Right, what is your name?" Zichun clasped his hands. "Senior, my name is Zichun." The old man nodded and said nothing more. He turned around and walked off into the distance. His expression changed again, as if he had expected it. Zichun carefully followed. The old man asked, "Have you always lived in the demon realm?" Zichun shook his head, then explained. "So it was them." Chapter 42:37. The old man clearly knew about Chung Ho and the others, and spoke of their deeds along the way. Zichun, on the other hand, listened quietly and didn't interrupt. The old man, who hadn't introduced himself, suddenly asked, "When did you meet them?" "When I was in danger, they suddenly appeared and saved me," Zichun explained. The old man asked, "If they were so busy, How could they have the time to save you? Zichun smiled bitterly. Senior, please don't test me. If you have something to say, just say it. I'm Zichun, but I'm not the Zichun from back then. I'm me. When I met Senior Lei Yutian's soul, he recognized me, but I didn't recognize him. Senior, you're someone from back then, so you should have heard of the name Zichun. Unfortunately, that's not me. Or rather, I'm not him. Zichin's straightforwardness caused the old man to laugh. Back then, Holy Zichin's disappearance was one of the greatest mysteries of the spirit world. Seeing you again made me curious. In truth, the old man had recognized Zichin at first glance, but he couldn't believe that this was an old friend from back then. Along the way, he had actually guessed the reason through his probing words. The holy Zichin from back then had indeed perished. But how had Zichin perished? Was he that powerful? From what he could tell, even Zichin himself didn't know. Senior, Zichin asked, what exactly happened back then? Why did the demons invade our spirit world? I don't know the exact reason. It was as if the world's barriers suddenly became unstable. Not only did the demons invade, but the people of the god realm also entered. After they entered, they only had one goal, to kill and seize. Even after countless years, the old man's emotions still fluctuated as he recalled the scene from back then. The spirit world that we have lived in for countless years, the world that nurtured countless powerhouses, no longer seems to belong to us. The sky seems to be collapsing due to an inexplicable force. Unknown black lightning and flames fall from the sky, destroying everything in the world. One world after another was destroyed, and the tragedy of the spirit realm was happening again and again. The old man glanced back at Zichin. And you, the leader, after participating in several battles, suddenly disappeared. Zichin knew that disappearing meant that he was dead. As for why he had died, he still did not know. There has always been a rumor that you obtained those coordinates, and your guess all this time came true, so you went to another world. But this is just a rumor. The old man sighed emotionally. At that time, many people died, but there were also countless unknown existences who shocked the world with a single brilliant feat, killing countless enemies. In the end, the Astrals won, but it was a Pyrrhic victory. Lei Yutian's elder brother brought his remaining strength to the Devil Realm. He wanted to kill the mastermind behind the scenes and verify a result, but he never returned. I have been waiting here for their return for many years. In just a few short sentences, he described the long war of the past. Although the words were simple, Zichin could imagine the bitterness of the battle. Unfortunately, you have no memories of the past. Otherwise, you would know exactly what happened. You disappeared from the spirit world. Perhaps someone in the spirit world plotted against you. But back then, your battle prowess was unparalleled, and you were the leader of the entire spirit world. I don't know who could have plotted against you. A thatched hut appeared in front of Zichin. It was the old man's resting place. The old man motioned for Zichin to follow him inside. After entering, Zichin realized that there was another world to this place. The thatched hut was just an illusion. This was another world. He saw all sorts of medicinal pills and holy talismans, as well as a few weapons. Zichin was shocked. The old man explained, "These are all the supplies prepared for the returnees. Unfortunately, they are no longer of any use. You can take them all." Me? Zichin was startled and flabbergasted. The spirit world has been peaceful for countless years. Those who fled back then were lucky enough not to die. They are recuperating and should be back soon. Take these things and go cultivate your power. When danger comes, I hope you can still become the leader of the spirit world. I'm just an 8 stars cultivator. How could I lead a team? Zichin said. Even if I were to lead a team, it should be someone like you, senior. After waiting for so many years, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. The old man walked forward. The space there began to distort, and the old man disappeared into the distorted space. Zichin called out senior a few times, but didn't get any response. This gave Zichin a bad feeling. What kind of sleep did the old man mean? He called out a few more times, but there was still no response. All that was left were the many supplies from back then. Zichin had no choice but to take them all away. During this trip to the demon realm, he didn't encounter too much danger. Instead, he obtained many opportunities. Normally, Zichun would be very happy and excited, but now, he felt a bit hesitant. After the old man disappeared, Zichun sensed the aura of heaven and earth that belonged to the spirit world. He naturally found the direction to leave in. He bowed and then turned into a ray of light and flew into the distance. After breaking through the barrier here, he finally returned to the spirit world. He felt the familiar aura of heaven and earth, and a sense of familiarity welled up in his heart. Zichun released his aura. This was what he had agreed to with Chung Ho. At the same time, Zichun took out the token that Chung Ho had given him. After a short while, a figure appeared. However, it wasn't Chung Ho, but Han Nu. Zichun called out, "Big sister," and asked curiously why it wasn't Chung Ho. Han Nu told him that Chung Ho was recuperating. Next, Han Nu brought Zichun back to the demon-suppressing sect. Apart from Chung Ho, the other holy sovereigns were all there. Originally, Zichun only knew that they were holy sovereigns, but now, he had a different understanding. Not only were they holy sovereigns, but they were all ancient holy sovereigns. They sat together and asked Zichun about this mission. As for Chung Ho, he was leaning against the lightning tree. His face was pale, and his aura was unstable. At this moment, he looked at Zichun with a rare, sincere smile on his face. In fact, they didn't need to ask to guess. These demon holy sovereigns were like mad dogs these days. Clearly, they were taking revenge after suffering a great loss. How could they suffer a loss for no reason? Of course, it was because Zichun had completed the mission. Chapter 42:38. Zichun took out the spirit core. Almost no one knew what it was, but everyone present was an ancient sacred venerable, so they naturally knew what it meant. With the spirit core, one could easily cross realms. Even in the past, this was an amazing thing, and it was extremely rare to see. Moreover, this was a spirit core with coordinates. However, this was something that Zichun had obtained, so it naturally belonged to Zichun. How could anyone accept it? Just as everyone was indifferent, Lady Han suddenly said, "Give it to me." Zichun naturally didn't have any objections and directly handed it to Lady Han. This time, the Devil Race's plan had failed. It would probably take a long time for them to invade the spirit realm again. Zichun's mission could be considered completed successfully. Zichun stayed for a while longer. After realizing that no one took the initiative to offer a reward, he bade farewell and left. It seemed that this mission was voluntary work that almost cost him his life. Lady Han still sent Zichun off outside the Holy Thunder clan. She should also know Lei Jinka, but she wasn't willing to face him. Chung Ho didn't like Lei Jinka too much previously. Cultivate well. While the spirit realm is still relatively stable, strive to become stronger as soon as possible. If chaos comes, it will be too late. These were Lady Han's parting words. Zichun used the teleportation array to return to the Tianwu world. This time, he left for a short period of time, which was somewhat unexpected. Therefore, Zichun's return was very surprising. After all, in the past, he would disappear for hundreds of years. The teleportation channel through the Holy Talisman realm was still not completed. Even though Jolina had already sent people to work on it, it would still take a long time. Zichun went to check on the teleportation array. Then, he went to the vestigial race to chat with Tasha about the recent situation. The main reason was to let her know that he had returned and that she could discuss anything with him. Right now, the lost race was adapting to this world. Currently, no one had broken through to become a saint venerable, but the shackles of the past were no longer there. As long as they adapted to this world, someone would definitely break through. During this time, Jolina asked about the future of the vestigial race. Zichun still had the same answer. If they wanted to stay, he would welcome them. If they wanted to leave, he would not stop them. Zichun did not give the resources he obtained from the old man to Jolina. Instead, he kept them in his own hall. He had other uses for them. After seeing Tasha, Zichun went to find the small fairy. After all, his soul palace was with it. When the little fairy saw Zichun, she was very surprised. "Why are you back so soon?" According to the preparation of Zichun last time, little fairy felt that Zichun would definitely not come back for hundreds of years. But now, he came back in less than 3 years. "Let's see how you're doing," Zichun said. Did you only eat and not work? You're back too soon. I thought that when you came back a few hundred years later, I could give you a big surprise. Little Fairy said, "Come with me." Zichun was a little surprised. Could it be that he had really opened up a world? During this time, he used his soul power and the rules of this world to sense, but he did not find anything abnormal. In front of Little Fairy, the space rippled and a passage appeared. When the passage appeared, the world's rules discovered the abnormality. It could even avoid the rules, which surprised Zichun. This was equivalent to opening up a world right under his nose, and he did not have the slightest perception. "Let's go." Little Fairy walked in front, and Zichun followed behind. They entered a space. This space was about 10 feet in size and was filled with rich soul power. However, there was only space and nothing else. This is the space opened up. It has already consumed a lot of soul power. If you want to turn this space into a world, such as having land and sky, you will need to consume even more soul power. Little Fairy said, "Before that, you have to be prepared in advance. Other than the core part of the soul hall, you can't keep the rest." Zichun asked, "Even if I give you all the resources in the lost world, you can't keep them?" "If you want an ordinary soul power world, it's possible, but since we've done it and have the ability to create a better world, there's no need to be thrifty. Moreover, the quality of your world is very high. If the world within a world is inferior to this world, what's the point?" Although he knew that Little Fairy had her own thoughts, Zichun really couldn't refute her. Moreover, a soul hall left to him could only increase his own strength. However, if he could extend it to a world, the benefits would be for everyone. Zichun had no reason to refuse. After telling Little Fairy some details, Zichun left. He went to Lei Yu's place and heard from the people inside that Grace had come back, but only stayed for a few days before leaving again. After leaving Lei Yu's place, Zichun went to the Sacred Talisman Palace again. Along the way, the cultivators he met were full of respect for Zichun. 2 years ago, Zichun went to the He and Chui clans alone to find the remnants of the Demon Clan. Many people knew that Zichun had advanced to the 8-star realm. The 7-star Zichun was almost invincible in this world, let alone the 8-star realm. Some of the negative news about Zichun had already disappeared. Everyone in the forces had already seen that Zichun had completely established a foothold in the Holy Thunder Clan. At the same time, he had also grown. Unless the sacred sage appeared, anyone who found trouble with Zichun was completely asking for trouble. Even the few clans that didn't get along with Zichun had calmed down a lot recently. After returning to the Tianwu continent, Zichun stayed in his room. Since everything had calmed down, he had to work hard to cultivate. Not only did he want to become a 9-star Holy Spirit, but he also wanted to become a sacred sage. Zichun took out the black armor plate that the demon god's remnant consciousness had given him. During this time, he separated a strand of soul power and poured it into it. Just as the soul power left his body, he cut off the perception of the soul power. After pouring the soul power into the armor plate, the black armor plate released a soft soul power light. Nothing unexpected happened. Zichun's worries were a little unnecessary. Then, he mobilized his soul power into the armor plate and felt a strong soul power. It was as if he was in a world of soul power and was constantly being nourished by the soul power. At this moment, Zichun also knew why the demon god's remnant consciousness could exist for so long. It was because of the black armor plate's protection. Zichun's soul power felt an aura of the same origin, but that was it. As for the cultivation technique that the demon god mentioned, Zichun didn't feel it. Chapter 42:39. The defense Zichun discovered was called Shadow Ghost, but it hadn't been activated yet, so he didn't know what it was used for. If the demon god's remnant consciousness was here, he would definitely be very surprised or shocked. This was because he had studied the armor plate for many years. He knew that it had defensive properties, but he had never figured out a defensive method like Shadow Ghost. Zichun had a new mission, which was to comprehend Shadow Ghost as soon as possible. After all, it was something that even the demon god admired. For an 8-star like him, it was naturally very beneficial. Lady's residence had a rare guest. In the entire Saint Spirit world, no matter where he went, he was a distinguished guest. Lei Zhenke. the number one person in the Holy Thunder clan, or rather, the number one person in the Saint Spirit world. Lei Zhenke rarely went out. In these years, he went out a few times, but it was all for one person. Although he and Lei Di were both Saint Venerables, they didn't interact often. Today, besides being a distinguished guest, he was also a rare guest. Lei Zhenke silently appeared in front of Lei Di. Lei Di raised his head and looked at him, but didn't say anything. Zichen is back, Lei Zhenke said. Lei Di nodded. He knew about it, as the housekeeper had told him. You haven't told him yet? Lei Zhenke asked. Lei Di shook his head. Lei Zhenke was silent for a moment, then said, At this time, I think you should tell him the truth. Or rather, he already knew his identity, and guessed the main reason why we took care of him all these years. Lei Di said, Whether or not he can awaken the memories of his past life, I hope he can grow up healthily. Lei Zhenke said, The strange voices in the clan before were just to give him pressure, hoping that he can grow up quickly. Now that all the voices have disappeared, Zichen is in a very quiet environment, which is not conducive to his growth. Moreover, the Saint Spirit world now has strange things happening everywhere. Isn't this similar to the past? Maybe one day, the God realm and the demon realm will descend here. If he can't grow quickly, he won't be able to grow in the chaos. Lei Zhenke paused for a moment before continuing. Without the pressure of the outside world, he will need to exert pressure on himself. Only by quickly becoming a holy sovereign and awakening the coordinates in the depths of his memories will he be able to save the Saint Spirit world. Lei Zhenke sighed and said, You saw with your own eyes what happened that year. After that battle, how many people survived? Moreover, many of the inheritances from back then had disappeared along with the deaths of those experts. You should know very well how powerful the Saint Venerables of that era were. You should also know very well how powerful the Saint Spirits were. If a battle were to break out, do you think anyone would be able to defend this world? The battle back then was indeed very bitter. Even though they won in the end, the Spirit Realm also won a Pyrrhic victory. It was truly miserable back then. Lei Di was here personally. Looking back at the Thunder Clan back then, there were countless experts. But how many of them managed to survive? Up until now, he and Lei Zhenke were the only two old friends in the entire Holy Thunder Clan. If the battle from back then were to erupt again, it would be a complete disaster for the existence of this world. Lei Di nodded and said, I will go and have a talk with him. Lei Zhenke emphasized, not to have a heart-to-heart talk with him, but to give him pressure. Let him think more for those he cares about and those who care about him. Ask him if he is willing to see rivers of blood and the deaths of his loved ones. Lei Zhenke's figure disappeared. Lei Di looked out the window and muttered, What happened back then? Why did you hide it from me? Lei Di left the room and went to find Zichen. He had been back for a long time, but Zichen had never come to find him. Lei Di naturally guessed the reason. Zichen did not want to face him, but he was also in a difficult position. He did not know how to get along with the current Zichen. When Zichen learned that the Holy Sovereign Lei Di was outside, he was clearly stunned. Why was the Holy Sovereign here? Moreover, he was waiting outside for someone to pass on the message. Zichen finished his cultivation and immediately went out to greet him. After entering, Zichen personally poured tea for Lei Di. Holy Sovereign, why are you here today? If there is anything you need, you could have sent someone to pass on the message. Lei Di said, Nothing important. I just came to see you and have a chat. Zichen sat across from Lei Di. If there was nothing important, the Holy Sovereign would not have come. You should already know the reason why I have helped you all these years, right? Lei Di lowered his head and gently turned the teacup on the table. I know, Zichen said. Although it is because of Zichen, I am still very grateful to you. Lei Di seemed a bit nervous, as if he was facing Zichen. The reason I am telling you this today is not because I want you to thank me. It is because, as a holy sovereign, he found himself at a loss for words and did not know what to say. If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you hemming and hawing? You have already reached the holy sovereign level, but your personality has not changed at all. A dissatisfied voice sounded, and there was one more person in the room. It was the Hall Spirit Su. After hearing this voice, Lei Di's expression changed. He said in surprise, Hall Spirit? Who else could it be? Palace Spirit Su said angrily. Your personality has not changed at all. What do you want to say today? Lady said, since you are here, I have nothing to say. You will definitely urge him to cultivate. The tragedy of that year will not happen again. With that, Lady was about to leave. The hall spirit snorted and did not ask him to stay. Wait. Zichun stood up and said. Lady turned his head and looked at Zichun. Zichun said, Holy Sovereign, can you help me send some more things? Zichun took out the spells left by the Holy Sovereign last time. Zichun had already selected some of them, which were very suitable for his friends. His original plan was to send them himself, but since he saw the Holy Sovereign, it was more appropriate for Lady to do it. Because his friends might still be in closed-door cultivation, if they could not see each other, the things would most likely be left in their sections. This required the Holy Sovereign's face. In the future, those things would still be what they deserved after they came out of closed-door cultivation. Zichun did not hide anything and directly told Lady the origin and value of these things. Lady was a bit surprised, but he did not say anything and left with the things. After Lady left, the hall spirit said, Lady is not a talkative person, but the purpose of this visit is not simple. You don't have much time left, so you need to hurry up and cultivate. Chapter 42-40. Last time, when Zichun refined the Hall of Zichun, he was only at the 7-star realm. At that time, Zichun was only able to use a portion of the hall's space to bring out all of the vestigial clan members. Other than that, he couldn't obtain anything else. Those cultivation resources were given to Zichun by the hall spirit using her authority. Now that Zichun was at the 8-star realm, perhaps he had even greater authority. Zichun wanted to give it a try. But before that, Zichun had a question in his mind. How long have you known Lady? I've known him since he was very weak, said Hall Spirit Su. At that time, Zichun had 2 people with the greatest potential by his side. Their future achievements were limitless. But the war broke out too early, so they couldn't break through. There's another one, asked Zichun. Who is that? Lei Tian, said Hall Spirit Su. Compared to the silent Lady, Lei Tian is much more talkative. He's also very clever. He's deeply trusted by Master, and many things were given to him to do. Even though he wasn't a saint, Master still favored him. Zichun thought back to the scene of Zichun and Lei Tian. And that Lei Tian was the Lei Tian he met many years later. But he suddenly disappeared without a trace. Zichun asked Lady about it, but he said he didn't see him. Zichun didn't believe him, because the 2 of them clearly knew each other, but Lady never mentioned it. And how could it be so coincidental that when he appeared, Lei Tian disappeared? Hurry up and try to refine it. Maybe you'll find something amazing. All Spirit Su looked at the silent Zichun and couldn't help but urge him. Zichun collected his thoughts, nodded, and began to refine the hall. This kind of refining was relatively simple. He just had to use his soul power to refine it, or try to sense it. The first thing that entered Zichun's perception were various spaces. There were various things in those spaces. Zichun tried to use his soul power to open the first space. It was as if some kind of seal had been broken. With a light pop, the space opened. Zichun saw jade bottles after jade bottles. There were at least several thousand of them. There was a seal on the mouth of the bottle. It was a type of pill that was not of a low grade. It's the Saint Realm pill. Although it's not very useful for Saint Venerables, it's a good thing for those below Saint Venerables. It can help you break through your own realm without harming your potential. When you break through to 9-star, you can try to refine it. It should speed up your breakthrough. When Zichun opened a space, Su Hall Spirit had already sensed it. After all, she would be taking care of these things by herself. Continue. Seeing that Zichun's consciousness was still immersed in the first space, Su Hall Spirit urged him to continue. Zichun's soul power left the first space and entered the second space. His soul power easily broke through this space, but what appeared in his field of vision was a black stone. The stone was about the size of a human head. It quietly floated there. This is a weapon refining material left behind. If you don't have a suitable weapon right now, you can use it. Without waiting for Zichun to agree, Su Hall Spirit said, but I'm afraid you don't have the time. If you want to successfully refine a weapon with this material, you'll need at least several hundred years. Go on to the next space and see what else there is. After opening the third space, Zichun saw a jade slip. The jade slip released a bright and dazzling light. Just as Zichen's soul power was immersed in this space, a strong hostility emerged from the jade slip. At the same time, there was a powerful aura. This is it. This is it. Su Hall's spirit's calm voice became excited. The war god technique, the most suitable technique for you right now. The hostility was too obvious, so Zichun tried to open the fourth space. However, he was unable to open it. Clearly, as an 8-star soul master, he only had this privilege. However, based on Su Hall's spirit's excited tone, this technique was clearly not ordinary. He was satisfied. He opened his eyes and asked, "What is that?" Su Hall's spirit said, "It's a body technique second only to the Chen technique. Master accidentally obtained it. After carefully studying it, Master discovered that this technique was not inferior to the Chen technique. He wanted to cultivate it, but for some reason, he gave up." The Chen technique, this was a familiar name. Back then, Zichun had mentioned this power. Apart from this, there was also the purple soul and the power of thunder. It was said that these were the 3 most powerful powers in the spirit realm, and they were all obtained by him. Was this war god technique not weaker than the art of Qin? Zichen's heart was filled with anticipation. However, he thought of a question. He asked, "Why not the Chun technique?" Su Hall's spirit said, "Right now, your weakness is your body. Naturally, you should cultivate whatever technique you have. I believe that Master must have left behind the Qin technique, but with your current cultivation, you can't obtain it. You can only obtain it first and then learn it later." In the next moment, a jade slip appeared in Su Hall's spirit's hand. Comprehend it well. Try to make your body stronger. Let's not talk about how you are compared to Master, but at the very least, you should be stronger than those puppets, right? Those existences that could destroy Zichen with a single punch were all refined puppets. This was something that Su Hall's spirit had told Zichen long ago. She had even used these puppets to attack Zichen. This was the main reason why Su Hall's spirit had appeared this time. With her here, there was no need for Lady to supervise. She would make Zichen use his time wisely. After Su Hall's spirit disappeared, Zichen began to comprehend the war god technique. The hostility was still there, and it seemed to be incompatible with soul power. What was reflected in his sea of consciousness was a bright light. Within this light stood a tall figure that looked like a war god. He stood there without moving, but he was as dazzling as the sun, making it impossible to look at him directly. Zichen's soul power was extremely uncomfortable under the light. This feeling was indescribable, as if he had seen his lifelong enemy. Other than this uncomfortable feeling, Zichen couldn't feel anything else. Just as he was about to withdraw his soul remembrance, he saw a ray of light descend from the sky. It was like a small sun that left the sun and arrived in front of Zichen. That intense feeling of hostility seemed to gradually fade with the appearance of this small sun. As it gradually approached, Zichen saw what it was. It was a ball of energy the size of a baby's fist. The energy was viscous like liquid and was extremely dazzling. Within this jade slip space, Zichen extended his soul power hand and touched this energy. In the next moment, this energy disappeared and entered Zichen's body. Chapter 42-41. 3 days later, Zichen walked out of his room. His expression was unsightly. He had yet to start cultivating the war god art, but just the energy conversion alone had nearly taken half his life. That was a completely different kind of energy. It tempered, changed, and assimilated his current physical body. The process was extremely torturous and took a lot of time. Now that he walked out of his room, it was not because he had finished converting his energy, but because he was almost numb from the pain, so he came out for a walk. Walking on the wide street, looking at the bustling crowd and the shops doing well, Zichen felt gratified. When he first brought the Sky Martial Continent to the Saint Spirit world, he had nothing. It was not easy for him to accumulate the wealth he had now. More than half of these shops were rented out, and some were directly sold to other families. The current Sky Martial Continent had close relations with many families of the Holy Thunder clan. Especially after he had obtained the authority to excavate the Lost World, the development of the Sky Martial Continent had sped up. Some of the families were cursing and swearing, but they immediately called people to talk to Chow Lina about the cooperation between them. Right now, the martial heaven continent had close relations with many powers. As the ruler of this world, Zichun could sense the abnormalities on the ground. The mother nest and the queen ant that had come with him were also steadily increasing their realms. They were Zichun's hidden strength. Furthermore, in the Sky Martial continent, there had always been a special training space. There were creatures of different races in there, and as long as they could afford it, they could train as they pleased. At the same time, outside of the Sky Martial continent, the sacred region where he had obtained Gone High was also developing very well. It was just that its grade was not as high as the Sky Martial continent, and most of the people there were low-grade creatures. Many people who came to the Holy Thunder Clan would also specially come to the Sky Martial continent to take a look. That was because this was a core world, and it was the world of the famous Zichun. Other than those training spaces, Zichun's world had many strange and precious things, such as soul weapons and the precious thunder leaf that would occasionally appear in the auction house. Of course, the rich spiritual energy in this world was also a bright spot, and it attracted many holy spirits to stay here. Zichun was very famous, but not many people really knew him, so he didn't cause a commotion when he walked on the street. They went to a small restaurant and ate a bowl of authentic local noodles. The owner of the restaurant was an ordinary person who had come with the Tianwu continent. His cultivation talent was limited, and there had never been a holy spirit in his family. However, the restaurant he opened was quite famous. Enduring the discomfort in his body, Zichun returned to his residence. Unable to continue cultivating his physical strength, Zichun began to study the black piece of armor given to him by the demon god. It was extremely difficult for him to concentrate, but Zichun still tried again and again. He discovered a benefit. Even if he couldn't succeed, Zichun's soul power would be tempered as long as his soul power came into contact with the armor plate. This discovery made Zichun extremely happy. Following this, he spent most of his time strengthening his soul power. Occasionally, he would go out and eat a bowl of noodles from the Sky Martial continent. Chung Ho's injuries had already recovered. Those crazy demons, after suffering a huge loss at Zichun's side, did not gain any advantage over them. During this period of fierce attacks, their losses were not small. On this day, after returning from his search, Chung Ho saw that there was no one under the thunder tree, and his mood was slightly depressed. That stinking brat. He already died once. He really doesn't let people have peace of mind. He muttered a few words, then leaned against the thunder tree and closed his eyes to rest. Not long after, Han Nu returned, travel-worn. Chung Ho glanced at Han Nu and said, "Why do you have to do this?" During this period of time, Han Nu often went out. Although she never said what she was going to do, Chung Ho was very clear. When Zichun took out the spirit core, no one had the nerve to take it. Instead, Han Nu took it, but she didn't take it for herself. Instead, she helped to set up a coordinate. Spirit cores were indeed extraordinary, and they were extremely rare treasures. They could be used to teleport to any place, but there was a prerequisite. They had to be there before. For example, after entering the demon realm, they could take the spirit core and return directly. However, if they wanted to go directly to the demon realm, they would need the coordinates of the demon realm. During this period of time, Han Nu had been busy with this. If we don't use it to its full potential, wouldn't it be a waste? Han Nu didn't hide anything. Then Zichun should be the one to find the coordinates. Why are you helping him like this? Chung Ho said, "This is called doing twice the work for half the result. What do you know?" Han Nu rested under the thunder tree for a short while. After she recovered, she would go to the next place. After half a year, Zichun's energy was finally fully converted, and his physical strength had greatly improved. He finally condensed a surge of war god's power in his body. Standing in Zichun's palace again and looking at the cold figure in front of him, Zichun's eyes were filled with confidence. He punched. It was the same punch, but this time Zichun activated war god's power. Following an explosion, Zichun stood there without moving at all, while his opponent retreated a few steps. Palace Spirit Su watched from the side. This was a contest of physical strength. After grasping war god's power, Zichun's battle strength had clearly increased. And from the looks of it, the The war god technique wasn't any weaker than her master's Qin's power. At least, that was the case for now. However, in Palace Spirit Sue's heart, she still believed that Purple Soul and Qin's power were most suitable for her master, and also for Zichun. Now, she just needed to wait for Zichun to slowly grow. Once Zichun's palace unsealed these two techniques, she would urge Zichun to start cultivating them. After walking out of Zichun's palace, Zichun was in a good mood. He planned to eat a bowl of noodles, but just as he walked out of his room, he saw a person standing outside. Bai Yu, the person with extraordinary battle strength from back then. Back then, after losing to Zichun, he came to the Tianwu world and refused to leave. But recently, Zichun hadn't paid any attention to him. He didn't expect him to appear of his own accord today. Why are you here? Zichun asked. Rumors have been flying around recently. Have you heard? Bai Yu didn't answer, but asked instead. What rumors? In the past few days, War God's power had reached a critical juncture. He had been cultivating and hadn't interacted with anyone else, so he didn't know what had happened. Many ruins suddenly appeared in the spirit realm. Some people entered to explore and discovered some sleeping existences. They inadvertently woke them up, Bai Yu said. Zichun's expression changed. What do you mean? I think they're the same as me. After many years of slumber, they've woken up ahead of time. I think it's necessary for you to issue a conscription order and use your name to recruit all the powerful beings who've woken up. Chapter 42-42. Those who had not experienced the turmoil of that era did not know what a devastating disaster was. There was no future, no hope, as if there was no daylight. Bai Yu, who had died in the battle, did not want to experience the turmoil of that era again after he was lucky enough to be revived. It was too tragic. He looked at the world in front of him, and everything was beautiful. Even though he was not a saint yet, he still lived a comfortable and happy life. He did not need to be afraid or worry about the future. Therefore, during this period of time, he had been enjoying everything in this world. This was something that had not happened in the turbulent era. Until the annoying news came one after another, he had no choice but to listen to it. Therefore, he thought for a while. Was it a coincidence that he woke up so early, or was it fate? Was it a coincidence that he met Zichun, who had not become a saint yet? But whether it was a coincidence or not, Bai Yu felt that he should do something. The world was good, but everyone seemed to be asleep, and there was no sense of danger. Their realms were low, and their combat power was average, but they were all arrogant. In his eyes, this was like a monkey in a mountain without a tiger. When there was no danger, he could naturally do this, and he was enjoying it now. But once the demonic realm and the celestial realm invaded again, these people would not be enough to fight. Perhaps a single demonic realm could destroy an entire clan. If he wanted to change the current situation, he could only rely on those who were gradually waking up like him. Once these people were gathered, even if they could not drive those invaders out, they could at least protect themselves. In the past, there were not many forces that could protect themselves. Therefore, he decided to nip the problem in the bud. He stood in front of Zichun and said these words. Zichun did not seem to have any sense of danger. He laughed and said, Me? If I send out a call, who will listen? Bai Yu said in a low voice, You don't know the tragedy of that era, and you don't know where your prestige was back then. Just with the name Zichun, you have the ability to make most of the revived people follow you. Zichun said, Then I don't need to do it. The Holy Thunder Clan has a real saint of the ancient. Wouldn't it be better if he stepped in? Bai Yu's mouth twitched. That person was called Lei Zhenke. He naturally knew who he was. At that time, he was surprised that this guy was still alive. In fact, Lei Zhenke's reputation back then wasn't small either. However, it was only in the later stages of the battle. However, that was only a small amount of fame. Compared to Zichun's fame in the past, it was nothing. In that era, Zichun could truly command hundreds of people with a single call. Seeing that Zichun was still hesitating, Bai Yu said, If you don't trust yourself, then you can give it a try. After all, you won't lose anything. Zichun's expression suddenly changed. Wait a moment, he said. Zichun's figure disappeared. Moments later, Zichun arrived outside the Holy Thunder Clan and saw a woman standing in the void. It was none other than the Frost Maiden. Sister Hanu, what are you doing here? Zichun was very surprised and immediately walked forward. The Frost Maiden smiled and said, "This is for you. There are the coordinates of all the major regions inside, as well as the demon-suppressing gate and the god-suppressing gate. When the time comes, just follow the coordinates and trigger them." In the past half-year, the Frost Maiden's footprints had covered almost the entire Holy Spirit world, including some dangerous places. Originally, Zichun had taken out this item because it was too precious. It would be a waste to keep it by his side. He didn't expect the Frost Maiden to do so much for him after taking away the spirit core. For a moment, Zichun didn't know what to say. "No need to thank me. As long as you become stronger as soon as possible," the Frost Maiden said with a smile. Zichun suddenly thought of something, so he told her about Bai Yu's suggestion. After the Frost Maiden heard it, she didn't think for long. She quickly nodded and said, "That's actually good. It can be considered as lighting up a lamp for everyone. At the very least, there's a clear direction for the future." Clearly, the Frost Maiden agreed. Without staying for long, the Frost Maiden turned and left, her figure disappearing into thin air. Zichun returned to the martial heaven continent. Bai Yu was still waiting for him. His mind was racing as he tried to think of a way to convince Zichun. It was precisely because of this that he was so worried. Zichun said, "What do you think if I give you this task?" "What?" Bai Yu was startled. "I think your previous suggestion is pretty good. What do you think if I give you this task?" Repeated Zichun. "Didn't you say you didn't agree? Why did you change your mind?" Bai Yu was very curious. Just what had caused Zichun to change his mind? "Just tell me if you're willing or not," said Zichun directly. "I'm willing, of course I'm willing." Bai Yu nodded repeatedly. Summoning the original Holy Sovereigns was a supreme honor. In the future, his name would definitely be written in the records. Back then, he had been a rogue cultivator with no power to rely on. He had only been able to listen to their names and their glorious battle records. He had never imagined that in the present world, because he had awakened early, he would be together with the once famous Zichun. Furthermore, it was clear that Zichun was treating him as one of his own. Bai Yu was very excited and happy to facilitate this matter. As for how he would spread the news, he would naturally use the Holy Thunder Clan's channels and resources. It was hard to say if there was any power in the world that could compare to the Holy Thunder Clan, but there was no one who could surpass them. Bai Yu returned. He needed to properly plan this matter. 3 days later, a piece of news spread from the Sacred Thunder Tribe. It was like a never-ending ripple that continued to spread until it reached the entire Saint Spirit world. The original Holy Sovereign Zichun has summoned all the awakened ancient cultivators to the Holy Thunder Clan to discuss this matter. This news immediately caused an uproar. The Holy Sovereign Zichun. Could it be that Zichun had already become a Holy Sovereign? Wasn't he just an 8-star Holy Spirit not long ago? To the people of the present world, Zichun was just a newly risen Holy Spirit with unparalleled combat strength. However, to the existences of the previous era, the name Zichun was a symbol. In the past, the Holy Sovereign Zichun had an extremely good reputation and extremely strong combat strength. He was a true leader-level existence. After the news spread, many people treated him as a joke. Fortunately, the news continued to spread, and there would always be people who wanted to hear it. The matter of the recruitment was handled by Bai Yu. Zichun cultivated and worked hard to improve his realm and combat strength. At the same time, under his purposeful investigation, all kinds of news spread. It seemed that the entire Saint Spirit domain had suddenly become incomparably lively recently. Some spatial ripples had suddenly appeared in many places, and after investigating, there were always some gains. Chapter 42-43. The Wulua Starfield. The Chui clan was the strongest power there. The heavy gate of the mansion slowly opened, and Chui Jing, dressed in green, walked out. She was accompanied by a servant girl who had grown up with her. She looked very obedient. The guards on either side looked straight ahead, their faces cold. Usually, at this time, they would salute the young woman. Even when they saw the servant girl, they would smile. But today, it was as if they were facing a stranger. Chui Jing looked back at the mansion. Her bright eyes were filled with anger and grievance. But more than that, there was a strong reluctance. "Miss, let's go," said the servant girl in a low voice. "If we don't leave now, the clan will send people to drive us away." "Chuizhu, don't you believe me?" Cui Jing looked at the servant girl, her face as pale as paper. The servant girl smiled bitterly. "Of course I believe you, Mississippi, but the clan leader doesn't, and the elders don't either. Miss, we've already been driven away. Let's hurry up and leave. Otherwise, there will be more unpleasant words." Cui Jing pursed her lips. She had always been strong-willed, so she resisted the urge to cry at this time. She took one last look at the place where she grew up and lived. "At this time, they still don't want to see me. It seems they're determined to drive me out of the Chui clan. Fine. From now on, I have nothing to do with the Chui clan." Cui Jing left with the servant girl. An old man in the dark silently watched this scene. When Cui Jing was far away, he shook his head and sighed. On this day, news spread that the Chui clan's young miss, Cui Jing, had deliberately revealed the clan's secrets, causing great losses to the clan. Therefore, she had been expelled. This news only caused a stir in the Wulua starfield. It wasn't enough to affect the entire Saint Spirit realm. The current Saint Spirit realm was once again discussing Zichun. There were also rumors about Zichin's past life and legendary life. Zichin's reputation had undoubtedly grown, to the point where even the Saint Sovereigns had to pay attention to him. At the same time, the biggest secret of the Saint Spirit realm was revealed right after the conscription order was issued. The ancient Saint Spirits from countless years ago were gradually awakening. Those who were related to the ancients were naturally experts. This made many forces think of Baiyu, an existence with unparalleled battle prowess after his appearance. He was even able to fight against the publicly acknowledged #1 expert, Zichun. His powerful battle prowess far surpassed those of the same level. Before his battle with Zichun, he had never lost a single battle. Therefore, many of the big families started to think of ways to recruit the awakened Empyrean Saint Spirits into their camp and strengthen their own forces. Speaking of which, this Zichun really isn't an ordinary person. He's been extremely powerful since a long time ago. It's said that he's always been able to fight above his level. Now, not only is he the #1 Holy Spirit in the Saint Spirit realm, he can even summon ancient Holy Spirits. Speaking of which, I'm really envious of the Holy Thunder clan. First, there's the #1 Saint Sovereign, Lei Zhengke. Now there's Zichun. Once Zichun becomes a Saint Sovereign, the Holy Thunder clan will definitely become the #1 force. Exactly. If they're allowed to develop and recruit a group of ancient experts, I think the Holy Thunder clan will become the #1 force in the Saint Spirit realm in the future. The rumors about Zichun had long since disappeared. Such discussions were often heard in taverns of all sizes. A man at a neighboring table listened to the discussions around him silently and drank cup after cup of wine. His expression changed and he hesitated. In the end, he put down his wine cup heavily and walked in front of those people. A tower-like existence appeared beside him, and a shadow appeared, blocking his line of sight. The people who were chatting excitedly were stunned and looked at the strong man. "Let me ask you," said the strong man, "who exactly is this Zichun you're talking about?" Asked the strong man. "Tell me everything about Zichun in detail." "I say, old man, you're not joking, are you? Who in the Saint Spirit realm doesn't know about the Holy Thunder clan Zichun?" The man looked at the strong man in astonishment. "If I tell you to tell me, then just tell me. Waiter, bring them a few more jugs of wine. I'll pay for the drinks at their table." The strong man glanced back at the counter. "Okay." In another direction, a waiter answered with a smile. The people tactfully made room for the strong man. After the waiter brought the wine over, the strong man said, "Today's wine is enough. Tell me everything you know about Zichun." When they saw the wine, their eyes lit up. Then they began to talk about Zichun. In any case, it was just hearsay. They had never actually met Zichun, so it was fine to talk about some random things that went with the wine. Some of the other customers in the area left silently, but before they left, they all glanced at the burly man. After drinking 4 or 5 jugs of wine, the strong man was certain that the Zichun of this world was the famous Zichun of the past. Since he was the one who had issued the conscription order, then he had to go take a look. After paying the bill, the strong man left the tavern and headed in the direction of the Holy Thunder Clan. Unexpectedly, as soon as he left the city, he saw someone standing in front of him. He smiled and clasped his hands. "I'm Lu Mu, a member of the Lu clan. I hope you can come to my clan for a chat." "I'm not free," said the strong man indifferently. The smile on Lu Mu's face didn't diminish. "Going to the Lu clan for a chat won't hurt you at all. You might even get some good fortune. Why not?" Coldness flashed in the strong man's eyes. "Do you not understand what I'm saying? Or is it to say that your purpose of appearing here is purely to seek death?" The smile on Lu Mu's face gradually disappeared. The strong man coldly said, "Tell those 9 stars to scram. If I want to kill someone, 1 punch is enough. Also, if you rely on the fact that you have a holy sage behind you, then hurry up and kill me. If you let me escape today, I'll definitely massacre your clan." This brother has misunderstood. "We came here this time with the intention of making friends with Your Excellency. We didn't expect to make Your Excellency unhappy because of this. This is a map of the Saint Spirit world. Consider it my apology." Lu Mu took out a jade slip. The jade slip flew forward. The strong man took the jade slip and scanned it with his soul power. There was no tampering. He looked at Lu Mu and said, "Let me give you a word of advice. Cultivate more and don't cause trouble. You have no idea what we went through back then, so all of you should put away your little thoughts." With that, the strong man flew into the air and left this world. After the strong man left, a figure of light appeared. Lu Mu immediately bowed to the figure of light. The 9-star holy spirits hidden in the surroundings also appeared one by one and bowed to the figure of light. "Ancestor, you really can't make him stay?" asked Lu Mu. "Perhaps," the holy sage figure of light said, "but if you can't, then the future of the Lu clan will be hard to say." Clearly, this person was a holy sage when he was alive. After waking up, although he was only an 8-star holy sage, it was only a matter of time before he could advance. For safety's sake, he didn't make a move. The strong man took the map and went to the Holy Thunder Clan. Then, he took a teleportation and entered the Tianwu continent. Chapter 42-44. "What is your name?" Baiyu asked with a smile as he looked at the burly man. As soon as he arrived, he said that he wanted to see Zichun, so Baiyu appeared. The burly man looked at Baiyu. "You are Zichun?" he asked. He had never seen the real Zichun, but had heard of the saint's name. "I am Baiyu," said Baiyu. "I am in charge of all the people recruited. What is your name?" "I am looking for Zichun," said the burly man. "I have an important matter to discuss with him. He is the only one I know." Baiyu looked at the burly man, and the burly man looked at Baiyu. Neither of them spoke. "Fine." In the end, Baiyu nodded and led him to Zichun. When Zichun saw the burly man, he asked, "You specifically asked to see me. Is there something you need?" "You are Zichun?" asked the burly man. Zichun nodded. "Perhaps I am not the Zichun you think I am, but my name is Zichun." The burly man immediately clasped his hands. "My name is Wei Tu. Your Excellency, I hope you can help me rescue my friends." "What friends?" Before Zichun could ask, Baiyu spoke first. Wei Tuo glanced at Baiyu. "This is Baiyu," Zichun explained. "He's a trustworthy friend. He's the one in charge of this recruitment." Wei Tuo explained what had happened. It turned out that he and a few of his brothers had died in a killing formation. However, their souls had not been completely destroyed, so as time passed, they were reborn. However, the killing formation did not disappear. After they woke up, it was activated. After a difficult battle, he was the only one to escape. The others remained in the formation. "I don't know if they can hold on," said Wei Tuo anxiously. "Your Excellency, please hurry up and rescue them." "How many of you are there?" asked Zichun. "There are 4 more. Back then, the 5 of us brothers went through fire and water together, reaching the Holy Venerate realm at the same time. However, that was a post-war era. Although we did not fight alongside Milord, we have heard of Milord's countless glorious deeds." Wei Tuo's gaze did not seem to be fake, so Zichun trusted him very much. It was just a formation that could kill 5 Saint Venerables, So what was the point of him going there? Bai Yu was also frowning. This matter was indeed troublesome. You guys wait here. I'm going to ask the Lord for help. I'll be back soon. Zichen stood up and was about to go look for backup. It's useless. There are restrictions in that place. The Lord can't even get close. Wei Tuo shook his head and said, if Sacred Sovereign can help me, then there are sacred sovereigns among the forces that tried to recruit me along the way. I'm sure that as long as I ask, they will help us. However, that place was very strange. It seemed to be protected by some kind of rules, which strongly repelled holy sages and prevented them from entering. Once a Saint Venerable gets close, that place will disappear into thin air. The next time it appears, no one knows where it is. Zichen looked at Bai Yu and was a bit puzzled. Why would such a place exist? It should be the natural protection formed by the natural law of heaven and earth. Without this layer of protection, the holy sages could go wherever they wanted. If only one holy sages of the demon clan came, the others would have no hope of reviving, right? Bai Yu explained. It's like some kind of heavenly treasure. Naturally, there are rules to protect it. This explanation was reasonable, but Zichen had a new question. Many demons died in the war back then. Could there be some kind of power protecting them? Bai Yu said, the rules of heaven and earth do not recognize people. Besides, there are demons living in the spirit world right now, right? They are also cultivating, so they are not being repelled by heaven and earth. Wei Tuo stood to the side, obviously restless. He didn't dare to stop along the way. Zichen pondered for a moment and said, you stay here. Wei Tuo and I will go and take a look. Bai Yu stood. It's best if the two of us go. There might be other people coming. If they are like Wei Tuo and only recognize you, then it will be troublesome. Are you confident? Asked Zichen. As long as I bring a few more saint talismans and other powerful items, it shouldn't be a problem to randomly attack that killing formation. Of course, you'll have to pay for it. Zichen took out a core medallion and tossed it to Bai Yu. If you need any resources, use it to get them. Also, if you encounter any danger, you can use it to send a message. As long as there are people from the Holy Thunder Clan, there will be people to help you send a message. Bai Yu received the medallion and turned to leave. Before leaving, Wei Tuo cupped his fist towards Zichen. During this time, Bai Yu had set up a special reception area. Anyone who came to the Martial Heaven continent and asked to see Zichen would be personally invited. As for Wei Tuo, he was the first ancient saint spirit to come to see Zichen. But this was definitely a good start. He trusted that more and more people would come to the Martial Heaven continent. After Bai Yu left, Zichen ordered that if anyone came to see him, they could directly notify him. In just 3 days, someone really did come. It was a 9-star saint spirit, just a step away from becoming a holy sovereign. He was an awakened ancient saint spirit. To him, there were no bottlenecks on his cultivation path. As long as the conditions were right, he could advance to become a holy sovereign. Zichen personally went to see him. When he saw Zichen, he was extremely excited. Back then, he had seen Zichen from a distance. That was why he had a deep impression of him. His name was Xiao Xinyuan, and he was very talkative. He told Zichen quite a bit about what had happened afterwards, as well as all kinds of bitter battles. According to him, during that chaotic era, the saint spirits were in constant danger. Even a holy sovereign would be on edge if they went out alone. Zichen arranged a place for him to stay. At the same time, he told him about Bai Yu and Wei Tuo. He also told him about their mission. Now, all he had to do was wait for news. In the next few days, no one else came. Perhaps they hadn't received any news, or perhaps they were just carefully observing. During this time, Bai Yu sent back news that he had found that place. It was truly a dangerous formation. It was somewhat troublesome, but no one was controlling it. He believed that he could smoothly break it and save the people inside. After receiving the news, Zichen was relieved. Recently, he had been cultivating and was very busy. He needed to improve the battle god art. He also needed to comprehend the sword art that Lei Yutian had given him. There was also that black piece of armor. With all these things added together, Zichen didn't even have time to eat noodles. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. On this day, a piece of news reached Zichen's Martial Heaven continent. Chapter 42-45. After Zichan received the message, he was very surprised. Last time, Bai sent a message saying that the problem was not big. Now he was trapped. What happened? After seeing the message, Zichan was about to set off immediately. At this moment, Xiao Xinyuan appeared. He looked at Zichan, whose face was a little pale, and asked, "What happened?" "Something happened to Bai Yu and the others." "I have to go and take a look," Zichan said. "Count me in," Xiao Xinyuan said immediately. Zichan shook his head and said, "No, I'll go and take a look alone." Xiao Xinyuan insisted, "What if something happened to you too? Take me with you. No matter what, I'm still a 9-star holy spirit. My combat power is far beyond my peers. No one knows what the future will be like. If we don't team up now, when will we?" Zichan nodded and said, "In that case, let's go." Zichan waved his hand and shot out a beam of energy. This light enveloped Xiao Xinyuan. The next moment, the two of them disappeared. Coming to the void, Xiao Xinyuan asked, "Where should we go?" Zichan took out the spirit core and began to look for the coordinates according to the directions he had memorized. There was no direct route, but there were some nearby ones. There were many coordinates on it. It was obvious how many places Han Nu had traveled during this time. The next moment, Zichan activated the spirit core. A teleportation flower opened in the void, and Zichan stepped into it. "This is a spirit core?" Seeing the void flower, Xiao Xinyuan was shocked. At this moment, the void flower healed, turned into a spirit core, and disappeared. At the same time, Zichan and Xiao Xinyuan also disappeared. The Fran Star Zone was an unknown small place. Its leader was only a 1-star holy spirit. Although this place was quite lively, it could only attract some low-level existences. Holy spirits rarely came to this place. But recently, this place had become extremely lively because not long ago, a relic was discovered in an even more remote place outside of this star field. At that time, the people who opened these relics had suffered great casualties, but they also gained a lot. During this period of time, there were constantly holy spirits coming to this place in search of opportunities. It was said that in that relic, there were even resurrected people. Zichan and Xiao Xinyuan arrived at the star domain. At the moment, Xiao Xinyuan was in a daze, not knowing where he was. But he had seen what Zichan had just displayed. He said in shock, "Is that the legendary spirit core?" Xiao Xinyuan asked again, very shocked. As expected of someone who had once been a holy venerate. Even though his cultivation had not recovered, his eyesight was still there. Zichan, who had answered him in the void earlier, nodded and headed down towards the star domain below. "Let's speed up." After arriving at this star field and hearing the discussions around him, Xiao Xinyuan was even more shocked. They had actually come directly to an area not far from their destination. Zichan found the Holy Thunder Clan member in charge of this place. He was a 1-star holy spirit. Originally, this place was not big enough to send a holy spirit, but recently it had become too lively, so the higher-ups had arranged for a 1-star holy spirit to come here in advance to collect all kinds of information. But this was only temporary. Once the liveliness subsided, the holy spirit would withdraw. After seeing Zichan, the holy spirit bowed. Zichan waved his hand and said, "No need for so much etiquette. How are my people?" "Sir," after entering the demonic relic, there was no news. The holy spirit replied respectfully. Although he did not know who this person was, he should be an important figure in the Holy Thunder Clan. "Demonic relic?" Zichan asked. "Why is it called that?" "Because there is a demonic aura inside. When we first entered, many people died. So those who came later called that place the demonic relic," the 1-star Holy Spirit replied. Zichan nodded and said, "Take me there to have a look." "Sir, please follow me." The Holy Spirit led Zichan and Xiao Xinyuan out of this star field and towards the demonic relic. Along the way, they saw many existences who came here to look for opportunities. They could also see holy spirits from time to time, but their realms were not high. The highest they saw so far was only a 4-star holy spirit. The appearance of Zichan's group did not attract too much attention. Only the 4-star holy spirit they met along the way used his soul power to sense the realms of the three. After seeing only one of them, his expression changed, as if he did not know the truth, so he did not come forward to cause trouble. The entrance to the demonic relic was on a small planet. According to the information, there was nothing here before, but this small planet suddenly appeared. Someone tried to enter and found the entrance to the demonic relic. Xiao Xinyuan said, "This is not strange. The place I came from is also a small planet. Before I fell asleep, the planet was hidden, and I have been absorbing the power of the planet naturally. It was not until my consciousness gradually woke up that the planet appeared in this world." Zichen asked, "Is it really that magical?" Xiao Xinyuan smiled and said, "It's not magical. It's the natural self-protection of the laws of heaven and earth. Once the resurrected leave, the planet will collapse, so before we leave, we will almost always take away the last bit of power in the planet." The one-star Holy Spirit listened silently, but the content was so shocking that he could not pretend to be calm at all. This unknown existence was obviously a resurrected one, which was the most popular ancient Holy Spirit. Then, what about the other ancient Holy Spirit? He looked at the other person. He was so young, but he could talk and laugh with a resurrected. This made a name appear in his mind, and his expression immediately changed. Zichun saw the change in the one-star Holy Spirit's expression, but he did not explain too much. At this time, the planet came into view. After entering the planet, Zichun found that there were even more people here, and there were many buildings outside the ruins. Many people had set up stalls there to do business and sell all kinds of things. The one-star Holy Spirit explained, "Some of the merchants here came from the ruins. Because they can't use the spoils they obtained, they sell them on the spot. However, this is only a small portion. Most of them are outsiders. Under the guise of selling the spoils of the ruins, who knows where they obtained the items from?" Neither Zichun nor Xiao Xinyuan had any interest in the things here. Outside the ruins, Zichun looked at a certain place. There was a wisp of aura there, left behind by Baiyu. Zichun smiled. It seemed that Baiyu was quite careful before going in. The three of them entered the ruins. As soon as they entered, Zichun felt the aura of the demon race, which was very strong and rich. In addition, he also felt the aura left behind by Baiyu, and there was more than one. Those auras were like bright lamps, appearing in Zichun's field of vision and extending into the distance. Chapter 42-46. Baiyu made one mark after another on the road ahead. Clearly, it was to prepare for any eventuality. Now, with these marks, Zichun no longer needed to lead the way. Moreover, even an existence like Baiyu had been trapped, let alone a one-star Holy Spirit. The other party accepted the order and left, feeling a little excited. To be able to travel with the legendary Zichun for a while, this would definitely be a great topic of conversation for the rest of his life. Who left behind those auras? After the one-star Holy Spirit left, Xiao Xinyuan, who had also sensed those auras, asked, "It's Baiyu." Zichun walked forward, spreading his soul power all around, probing for any possible dangers. There was no danger along the way, only the auras left behind by Baiyu. Even the other Holy Spirits who had come to explore this place were rarely seen. In the end, there was not a single person. The demonic qi along the way became even stronger, and Xiao Xinyuan clearly felt uncomfortable. After so many years, there's still such a dense demonic qi. The killing formation of the demon race here should be very unusual. Zichun nodded slightly. It was better to be careful. The next step was a little more difficult. The pressure of the demonic qi between heaven and earth became even stronger. Ordinary Holy Spirits would have to stop here. If they continued forward, they might be invaded by a tacit understanding, affecting their consciousness and possibly causing them to hallucinate. For Wei Tuo to be able to kill his way out of this place, he himself had extraordinary strength. After walking for about 2 hours, Zichun finally saw Wei Tuo. He was sitting cross-legged, constantly sending energy into the sky. In the sky, there was a large black and white net, and Baiyu was in the net. The movement behind him attracted Wei Tuo's attention. He looked back warily, and when he saw Zichun walking in front, he was stunned. So fast. Baiyu, who seemed to be sleeping with his eyes closed, also woke up at this moment. When he saw Zichun and Xiao Xinyuan, he said excitedly, Zichun, save me. Suddenly, his expression changed because he realized the problem. He asked warily, why are you here so fast? Isn't it a little too early? How long had it been since they sent the news back? How long did it take to get here? Even if he used some of the Holy Thunder Clan's secret trump cards, it shouldn't have been this fast. Faced with Bai Yu's vigilant question, Zichun said, what are you talking about? Didn't I tell you to be careful? How did you fall? Then he looked at Wei Tuo. What's going on? By the way, this is Xiaoxun. You guys left a few days ago, and he's currently in the 9-star realm. Wei Tuo nodded at Xiao Yuan. Bai Yu moved slightly, then let out a pained howl. This thing is like a knife. If I hadn't used my power to maintain it, it would have cut me into countless pieces. My name is Bai Yu, so I won't bother with formalities here. Xiao Yuan saluted Bai Yu from afar. No need. Zichun frowned as he looked at the big net. There was a strong devil aura coming from it. As long as you don't touch it, it won't be a problem. Based on my cooperation with Wei Tuo, we should be able to hold on for a while, said Bai Yu. Where are your friends? Asked Zichun. They should be behind this killing formation. This killing formation seems to be slowly growing, and its power is even greater than before. Wei Tuo said with a bit of worry. I'm afraid it will grow to its previous level of subversive power. When that time comes, no one will be able to survive. Wei Tuo, you're not being honest. That's not what you said earlier. What? Now you want Zichun to give up on saving me? Bai Yu shouted in dissatisfaction. Wei Tuo couldn't be bothered with him. He began to tell Zichun everything that had happened. As it turned out, after arriving here, Bai Yu had only briefly investigated the area before he began to bombard the Grand Formation. The results were excellent, but just as he was about to break through the Grand Formation, a sudden change occurred. A large net that had been triggered somehow fell from the sky and enveloped Bai Yu. Because Wei Tuo hadn't done anything, he had discovered it ahead of time and fled quickly. Otherwise, the two of them would have been trapped here with no one to send a message to. Zichun looked at the trapped Bai Yu. In other words, not only did you waste a lot of good things, you didn't even do anything. You even threw yourself in. Zichun's eyes began to shine. This was the Lightning Clan's eye technique. He wanted to see if there were any abnormalities. He could only see strands of power, arranged in a very strange way. They were like tangled lines, and it was extremely difficult to find the key point. In addition, there were even more power, densely packed together. Zichun's first impression was that it was extremely difficult to break through. Seeing the light in Zichun's eyes that had yet to fade, and his expression that was growing more and more serious, Bai Yu nervously asked, how is it? Can you say something? Don't scare me. The light in Zichun's eyes faded. I can't see clearly. I don't have a clue. Bai Yu's expression changed. Don't tell me you're going to retreat? Zichun, you have to think carefully. This time, I came to do what you told me to do. Noisy. Zichun's eyes flashed again. This time, it was a black light. He used the eye of the demon god. After using the eye of the demon god, Zichun's vision became clearer. All the lines appeared clearly. All the combined formations seemed to be magnified countless times. They were displayed in front of Zichun's eyes. There was a formation within a formation, and killing intent rose and fell. Bai Yu had only triggered the outermost layer. If the entire formation was triggered, he would definitely die. Moreover, he could clearly see that a part of the formation had been damaged. It was no longer in its peak state. How is it? Seeing Zichun fall silent again, Bai Yu asked worriedly. Wei Tuo and Xiao Yuan also looked at Zichun nervously. At the very least, the two of them had no way to break through. If they attacked forcefully, they were afraid that they would trigger the formation and put Bai Yu in a situation of death. The light in Zichun's eyes faded. It's not a big problem, he said calmly. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief. Bai Yu still asked nervously, is that true? A light flashed in Zichun's hand, and a spear appeared. It was the weapon he brought out of the Holy Talisman realm. His figure flashed, and he flew forward. Wei Tuo shouted, wait, there. But before he could finish speaking, countless rays of light appeared in front of him. Those rays of light were like sharp blades, cutting towards Zichun. However, Zichun seemed to have known that they would appear. He changed his direction in advance. Like a fish in water, he easily avoided the attacks. In almost an instant, Zichen closed in on Baiyu. Spear. A light flashed. Chapter 42-47. It was as if Zichen could predict the future. Not only did he dodge all the attacks, but he also easily saved Baiyu. This caused the two spectators to be stunned, and they didn't dare believe their eyes. Zichen actually acted so casually? At this moment, something strange happened. In the sky, ripples surged, and an even larger restriction net appeared. Boundless murderous intent surged out, and a sharp aura filled every inch of the space. Baiyu's body clearly trembled. At this moment, he, who was in midair, felt as if countless sharp blades had appeared from all directions. These sharp blades could not be seen or touched, but they were real and were affecting his soul. Zichen's eyes lit up again. After using the demon god's eye, Zichen found that this formation, which had killed several Saint Venerables, was activated on its own. All the formations, big and small, were like a sophisticated machine, slowly operating. When Wei Tua saw this, he wanted to go forward and help, but Zichen said in a deep voice, "Don't come over." Now that he could use the demon god's eye to see the operation of the formation, he naturally had a way to resist it. However, if Wei Tua came, he not only had to protect Baiyu, but also take care of Wei Tua. He was bound to be distracted. Wei Tua was stunned, but he immediately stopped and didn't dare to continue forward. Xiao Xinyuan, who was beside him, was also very nervous. Zichen shook the long spear in his hand and threw it toward the sky. As a ray of light flashed, the restriction net above them shattered. Buzz. Ripples surged, and danger appeared on both sides. Hundreds of black sword lights appeared from the void. The sword lights were like lightning, heading straight for the two of them. Looking at these real sword lights, Zichen shouted, "Be careful. Find a chance to retreat." He turned around and stood with his back to Baiyu. A black shield appeared in his left hand, blocking in front of him. The black light on the shield bloomed, forming a powerful protection. All the sword lights touched the black light on the surface of the light shield, causing ripples before disappearing. Behind Zichen, Baiyu had also easily neutralized those attacks. However, before he could escape, another change occurred in the world. Be careful. Try to stay alive. In Zichen's eyes, this was only the beginning. The array had not even displayed half of its power. At the same time, he rejoiced that he'd obtained the eye of the demon god when he made a trip to the devil world. Otherwise, he would be flustered right now. A mirror appeared in the sky, and the two figures were reflected in the mirror. In an instant, the two of them felt their bodies sink, as if there was a heavy demonic mountain on their backs. Ripples appeared in the void beneath their feet, and a black sphere appeared. It bloomed like a flower bud, like a black demonic lotus. The blooming demonic lotuses continued to grow, heading towards the sky, wanting to envelop the two of them. "Not good. My power is being suppressed," Baiyu shouted. At this moment, the energy flowing around his body was rapidly fading. The demon mirror in the sky was devouring his energy, and at the same time, it was creating a powerful pushing force that was trying to push him towards the demon lotus. Seeing this, Xiao Xinyuan immediately shot out a beam of energy, wanting to stop the demon lotus from rising. However, before his energy could get close, the demon lotus released several chains of light, obliterating Xiao Xinyuan's energy. Wei Tua glanced at Xiao Xinyuan. If he acted rashly, he might trigger an even more powerful array. Zichen's eyes flickered. The demon eye could clearly see the flaw in the array. He tapped his foot, and his figure swept through the air, heading straight for the center of the demon mirror. Crack! Countless cracks appeared on the surface of the demon mirror, and then it exploded. The pressure that fell on the two of them immediately dissipated. Baiyu, who was about to be devoured, immediately soared into the sky. As soon as the demon mirror disappeared, a demonic palm descended from the sky, emitting a terrifying aura. "Are you done yet?" Baiyu shouted. He struck a palm towards the sky, and a surge of spiritual energy condensed in his palm. With a loud bang, Baiyu's palm collapsed, and his body fell down. Although his combat strength was not weak, compared to a large array, it was still quite a bit weaker. Bai Yu, who was falling uncontrollably, was so frightened that he screamed. This was because the demon lotus was below. Beside the demon lotus, Zichun pulled out the spear that pierced into the core, and the demon lotus dissipated in the sky. Then, Zichun grabbed Bai Yu and stabilized his body. After Bai Yu stabilized himself, he let out a big sigh of relief. That was close. Zichun looked up at the sky and said, "The danger is yet to come. This is just the beginning." What? Bai Yu's expression changed again. He looked around. The space around him was like boiling water, constantly rippling. An intense pressure of the demon race swept out. Zichun's eyes flickered. At the same time, he said, "Follow my steps. Don't make a single mistake." As soon as his voice fell, Zichun's pupil shrank, and he took a step forward. Bai Yu, who was standing beside Zichun, also took a step forward with Zichun. Chi. At the place where Bai Yu had been standing, a black crack appeared in the space. It was more than 30 meters long. Even space can be torn apart. Bai Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. If it wasn't for Zichun's warning, he would have been split in two. Go. Zichun's voice sounded again, and his figure dodged again. Without a sound, the space was torn apart again. Wei Tuo stood outside the restriction, looking at Zichun walking in the air with an indescribable expression of shock. He couldn't sense anything. Inside the formation space, the space would silently be torn apart, and Zichun would always be able to avoid it in advance. It could even be said that Zichun was always able to detect the abnormality one step ahead of time and evade it. Those terrifying cracks were always one step too late. As expected of Lord Zichun, Wei Tuo sighed. Xiao Xinyuan also nodded, agreeing with this statement. In this situation, only Zichun could resolve it so easily. If it were them, they would have died many times over. More and more cracks appeared in the surroundings, but Zichun was still able to dodge them easily. At this moment, the array changed again. Suddenly, countless black rays of light appeared between heaven and earth. These were all sword lights, surging with sharp sword aura. They were everywhere, densely packed and innumerable. There was no way to dodge. This was a situation of certain death. Bai Yu's face instantly turned pale. The expressions of the two people outside the array also changed greatly. Buzz. Countless sword lights trembled, and then moved forward together. There was nowhere to dodge. No matter which direction he ran in, he would be pierced by the sword lights into a sieve. At this moment, Bai Yu's eyes lit up. He saw an opening, which should be caused by the array being broken. Before he could do anything, Zichun's cold voice sounded. "Don't move. Stay where you are and don't move." Chapter 42-48. In an instant, Bai Yu's eyes widened. He truly felt as if 10,000 arrows had pierced through his heart. Am I going to die again? He stared blankly at the void, his eyes full of unwillingness. It was because he trusted Zichun too much that he was half a beat slower. Otherwise, he might have been able to survive. At this moment, what was completely different from Bai Yu's perspective was that Xiao Xinyuan and Wei Tuo saw with their own eyes that the sword light pierced through their bodies, but it was just an illusion. The real killing move was around the two of them. Countless cracks appeared in the entire space. Other than the place where the two of them were standing, there were killing moves everywhere. If they moved, they would die. Obviously, Zichun had seen through this. That was why Bai Yu remained motionless. The moment the sword light pierced through his body and the cracks disappeared, he shot straight into the sky like a stream of light. The spear pierced the void, and waves of ripples surged out. The entire formation was revealed. This time, the attack landed at the eye of the formation. It was as if it had hit a vital point. The grand formation that appeared began to crumble. Bai Yu, who was still regretting, only came back to his senses when he heard the commotion. He stood there in a daze, not knowing what had happened. The formation shattered, and the scene ahead appeared. There were 4 people sitting back to back, holding up a defense at the same time. "Brothers!" Wei Tuo cried out excitedly. The 4 of them heard the commotion and looked up to see Zichun and the others. Their almost numb eyes lit up a little. Wei Tuo immediately went down to the light shield and said excitedly, I'm here. I found Lord Zichon. He saved you. By you, who came back to his senses, straightened his clothes and said, How can you say that? Don't you still have me? Xiao Xinyuan smiled and said, You did help, but it was just more of a hindrance. The four of them removed their protection and stood up. Every one of them had a look of relief on their weak faces after surviving a calamity. Zichun came closer and smiled at them. They were all safe and sound. That was very good. The Empyrean Saint Spirits group had grown a little stronger. Wei Tuo said, This is His Excellency Zichun. Don't be surprised. This is the same His Excellency Zichun from back then. Wei Tuo turned around and said, Your Excellency, these are the four brothers I was talking about. In the past, we risked our lives to become heavenly sovereigns. The four of them were shocked. They never thought that they would be able to see Lord Zichun again after coming back to life. The four immediately stepped forward. One of them clasped his hands and said, Greetings, Lord Zichun. I am Lu Fan's Hin. The other three also cupped their fists and bowed. Their expressions were unusually excited. Zichun immediately stepped forward and said, There's no need to be so polite. From now on, we're all on the same side. He made a gesture to help the four of them up. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. The 9-star Saint Spirit named Lu Fan's Hin suddenly had a murderous look in his eyes. A weapon appeared in his hand as he thrust it towards Zichun's chest. Zichun, watch out! Xiao Xinyuan cried out in alarm and pushed Zichun away. The weapon that was supposed to pierce Zichun's body instead pierced into Xiao Xinyuan's body. Although Zichun was pushed away, he was not out of danger, because in an instant, the other three people also made their moves. No one came first. Puff, puff, puff. 3 sharp blades pierced into Zichun's chest, abdomen, and neck, one after another. Such a turn of events made them completely dumbfounded. Wei Tuo was stunned on the spot, as if he had been struck dumb. Baiyu was also stunned. Even before the smile on his face disappeared, the joy of reuniting with each other turned into a cold, murderous look. Boom! A powerful aura erupted from Zichun's body, and a tyrannical force shook the surroundings. The three of them were all sent flying backwards. The weapon was still stuck in Zichun's body. On the weapon, there was residual power surging, destroying Zichun's vitality. Zichun's body swayed, and he almost fell. He looked coldly at the four people in front of him. What's going on? Wei Tuo finally reacted and looked at the four people in disbelief. He's Zichun, Lord Zichun. He's the one who saved you. Lu Fan's Hin sneered. The one we killed was him. Zichun, how are you? Baiyu asked Zichun, who had already walked up to the pale-faced Xiao Xinyuan and helped him up. Zichun slowly shook his head and said, I won't die for the time being. As his voice fell, Zichun's figure disappeared. As if he had teleported, he appeared in front of Lu Fan's Hin, and the demonic blade in his hand slashed forward. At the same time, a light flashed in his eyes. The blade slashed down. It was a very ordinary blade, but the demon god's eye wasn't ordinary. Lu Fanshin's head flew high into the air, and a powerful soul power entered his mind, destroying his soul. Zichun didn't hold back, and he didn't dare to hold back. In this situation, he didn't even give them a chance to explain. He had to end this quickly. He used his body movement to the extreme, and he was like a ghost teleporting. At this moment, Zichun temporarily suppressed his injuries, and then burst out with his most powerful killing power. Puff, puff, puff. Without giving the other three a chance to react, Zichun chopped off 3 more heads. The 4 heads fell to the ground, and they couldn't be more dead. As for whether they could come back to life this time, that was another matter altogether. Zichun's figure appeared, and he began coughing up blood. The 3 weapons were still in his body. It wasn't that he didn't want to take them out, but that he didn't dare. These 3 weapons were all specially made to target him. The power of extermination in them was very terrifying. Once it was forcibly extracted from the body by the weapons, it would also take away a part of his vitality. After killing the 4 people, Zichun immediately swallowed a medicinal pill, and then he glanced at Xiao Xinyuan, who had just blocked a blow for him. The other party wasn't much better than him. He walked towards the other party, and at the same time, another medicinal pill appeared in his hand. Let me do it. You heal first. Seeing this, Bai Yu immediately got up and walked towards Zichun. No need. I can still hold on. Zichun rejected Bai Yu's kindness and walked towards Xiao Xinyuan. After coming close, Zichun sat down and handed the high-quality medicinal pill to Xiao Xinyuan. Thank you. I got this medicinal pill from a sacred relic. It should be able to heal your injuries. Take it first. Zichun looked at Xiao Xinyuan, who was pale and even weaker than himself, and said. Xiao Xinyuan smiled, but he was even weaker. He slowly reached out his hand, wanting to grab the medicinal pill. However, his hand slipped, and he couldn't grab it. Zichun's body subconsciously leaned forward. Xiao Xinyuan's other hand suddenly landed on Zichun's head like lightning and clasped it tightly. His originally weak eyes turned ice cold. Die.